A very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to one and all. We will be beginning the valedictory function of our FDP with the national anthem. May I please request everyone to stand.
I request you all to stand up for national anthem.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a year since we had our lockdown, since 17th of March 2020 in Mumbai, and 8 months since we began our academic work online. FDPs and webinars became the norm. But I would venture to say that this particular faculty development program has been quite outstanding, with over 15 resource people who have shared their expertise with our audience in an engaging manner, despite the medium. I believe we have managed to reignite the research spark as we explored different methodologies and procedures of research. Some of these resource people showed us step-by-step systematic processes. Some helped to clarify typical misconceptions and pitfalls. Some presented a very different and intriguing worldview. And we still have 2 sessions today to look forward to. This has been a truly collaborative effort, and it gives me great pleasure to invite our principal, Dr. Rajendra Shinde, to address us all.
Namaskar and good afternoon to everyone. It is my great pleasure to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Ganesh Hegde, Advisor, National Assessment and Accreditation Council, which is an autonomous institution of the UGC under the Ministry of Human Resources, Resource Development, Government of India. All the RUSA dignitaries who are attending this program, participants from various institutes, our own faculty, speakers today, and students. We are at the end of 6-day RUSA-sponsored 1-week faculty development program on a virtual platform organized by the IQAC of St. Xavier's College. I'm really thankful to all of the participants for such an overwhelming response from them. Though we crossed 1,200 registrations every day we have been monitoring, and we realized that about 1,000 participants are attending the webinars through the YouTube channel. Since this is our first interaction with our honorable chief guest, Dr. Hegde, though I have been interacting with him over the phone, I would like to repeat our college profile for him, just for him, because most of you heard this in the inaugural session, but I've made some changes. St. Xavier's is known for its core values, innovation, integration, and inclusion, which are well reflected in our holistic approach in teaching and learning programs, our curriculum, our social involvement programs, project-based learning, and various other activities. St. Xavier's College is an autonomous institution since 2010, affiliated to the University of Mumbai from its very establishment in 1869, thus completing the 152nd year in January 2021. We have been NAC re-accredited 3 times, and all 3 times we have scored top grades. And I'm hoping and praying that we would maintain our scores or better our scores in our fourth cycle. Last 4 years, we were only college from Mumbai to acquire a spot in the list of top 100 colleges of National Institutional Ranking Framework. Twice, we have been awarded Potential of Excellence Award and College of Excellence Award once in 2014 by UGC. In addition, the Best College of University of Mumbai, RUSA, Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan, DST FIST, DBT star status for our science departments, and recent DBT Builder are just a few accolades or grants to mention here. St. Xavier's College has been recognized as Best Education Brand 2018-19 by the Economic Times. The inclusion cell of the college, led by Dr. Sam Tarapurwala, is to be lauded for. Through their efforts, the college has been conferred the Nipman Foundation Microsoft Equal Opportunity Award 2018 in the Enabler category of Inclusive Schools Higher Education. During 2021, the popular magazine World Education has ranked us first in India in the category of private autonomous colleges. During last 10 years of our autonomy, we have started some useful skill-oriented new programs. A few of them I would like to mention here. Master of Arts in Public Policy, Master of Science in Big Data Analytics in collaboration with TCS, Master of Science in Physics in Astrophysics with the help of IUCA and TIFR, Postgraduate Diploma in Expressive Art Therapy, Master of Arts in Psychology with Lifespan Counseling, Postgraduate Diploma in Bioinformatics, Certificate course for the TY students of our college on Machine Learning and Artificial Intelligence. This coming academic year, we would be starting MA in Economics and PG Diploma in Travel and Tourism. Of course, as I said, these are just few here to mention. In keeping with the vision and mission statement of our college, the challenges thrown at us by the COVID-19 pandemic, we decided our theme for the year 2021 as academic adaptation. And true to our Xavier's spirit, our faculty and students have not only adapted to the online and virtual teaching mode, not only in our curriculum, our examination system, but also managed to adapt the new technology in our co-curricular and extracurricular activities. Our students and management has responded to the needs of society in these difficult times of COVID. Though I did not attend all the talks of these 6 days FDP, whatever I heard was certainly of high quality. I'm sure these 6 days, you all had a wonderful learning experience. I'm quite confident that those who are already in active research you've got something new to try out. Those who are not doing any research or not started any research yet have now got some idea about the need of conducting research, not just for our own API and promotion purpose, but also for teaching purpose. I strongly believe that the research is one of the great tools for our regular teaching and learning processes, as it keeps us alert and updated with the current scenario in the subject. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Pankaj Kumar, State Project Director of RUSA, who was our chief guest for inauguration, Dr. Hegde, Advisor, NAC, who could spare some time today to address and guide all of us, RUSA Maharashtra for their support, all our esteemed guest speakers who have enlightened us throughout these 6 days, and my team, the organizing team, who has put in a lot of efforts to organize this FDP successfully. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ruby.
Thank you, sir, for that warm welcome. It's indeed my pleasure to introduce our chief guest for the day, Dr. Ganesh A. Hegde, Advisor, NAC Bangalore, is an expert academician in the assessment and accreditation arena in the country today. He has been with the National Assessment and Accreditation Council for more than 2 decades now in several capacities. He is keenly involved in framing the assessment framework of NAC for the last 2 decades. He has rich expertise of assessing and accrediting more than 1,400 institutions of higher learning across the country. In addition to this, he has played a pivotal role in designing and conceptualizing assessment manuals in specified areas like health, teacher education, IQAC guidelines, best practices, publications, to name a few. He holds a doctorate degree in mass communication and journalism from the University of Mysore. True to the spirit, Dr. Hegde has organized several workshops for principals and faculty members for undergoing the process of accreditation. He has conducted several assessors training programs at NAC for vice chancellors, professors, and principals all over the country, respective NAC peer team experts. In addition, he has coordinated the review of 66 academic staff colleges of UGC and submitted a report. He has been instrumental in bringing out the internal quality assurance guidelines in addition to other publications. Dr. Hegde has also contributed his professional expertise in the international arena as well. He has participated and contributed to national and international seminars on higher education, assessment and accreditation, internal quality assurance system, quality in teacher education, best practices, and APQN online discussion, to name a few. He has also participated and conducted training programs for assessors abroad. He has been on the board of directors for the International Network of Quality Assurance Agencies in Higher Education, INQAAHE, from 2013 to 2015, which is a worldwide association of over 200 organizations of quality assurance agencies. Dr. Hegde is endowed with a vision to make quality and excellence the motto of higher educational institutions in India. Before joining NAC, he served as the publication executive in the Department of Science and Technology, Vigyan Prasar, Government of India, New Delhi. Dr. Ganesh A. Hegde has authored 2 books. One is on information communication technology and higher education, and the other one is 7 action points for IQAC. He has also co-authored 2 books for NAC. One is on best practices of IQAC, and the other is the statewide wise analysis of Punjab. On behalf of the management, our principal, Dr. Rajendra Shinde, and the staff, I extend a warm welcome to you, sir, and I invite you to say a few words to our participants from across the country. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Soni George, for introducing me to all the participants here. Kindly make me to the host to share a slide with you.
You will be able to share. Please go on.
Thank you. Hope the screen is visible to you.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
So thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, I thank the Dr. Rajendra Shinde ji and the principal of the St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, for making this faculty development program in collaboration with the RUSA Maharashtra. And I also take the opportunity to thank Dr. Vijay Joshi ji, Dr. Pankaj Kumar ji, the RUSA Maharashtra. And my special thanks to the Dr. Anil Sutalji, Dr. Kanchana Mahadevanji, who will be speaking on the different topic for the day. And my special thanks to Dr. Ruby and Dr. Soni, who will be coordinating this event on behalf of the St. Xavier's College. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. S.C. Sharma ji, the Director NAC, who has been permitted me to share some of the things with you on this faculty development program. As you all know that the research and innovations is the key areas wherein NAC assessment and accreditation lies. If it is an autonomous college, it will be more than 150 weightage will be there for the research and innovations. As you have started already the artificial intelligence, the subjects in the college, I think the new area or the new way of approach will be there in the future for the artificial intelligence and the data mining and data analytics. So this topic today, which I will be sharing with you on the research and innovations about the NAC and about the government of India. Before I am proceeding, I would like to recite a small shloka in front of you for all the teachers who are being part of this faculty development program. Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrasham Tattvamasya Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. My respect to all the teachers who are listening and viewing this webinar. As you all know that the revised accreditation framework of the NAC, which comes with the system generated score as well as the on-site evaluation. System generated score in another language we may call as the data validation and verification process, which comes as the around 62 to 63%. If you calculate for the autonomous college, it may come around 70% as the system generated score. For the 30%, it may come for the on-site visit. I will not go into the details of the process of the accreditation, but I would like to touch upon the third criteria, which comes as the research, innovations, and extension. There are 5 key indicators for the affiliated college are there. If it is an autonomous college, there is a consultancy also part will be, and the linkages also will be added to this particular criteria. And around 150 weightage will be there. As you are all the good teachers of the different institutions, I feel that कोई भी शिक्षक कभी भी साधारण नहीं होता है. प्रलय और निर्माण उसका गोंद में पहलते हैं. That means a teacher always will be creating a new ideas, new informations, and the new way of approach will always be with him, because he will be with the new and the young students who are coming to the colleges and universities for the degree or maybe the various academic activities. NAC looks for the grants for the research sponsored by the government and non-government agencies, percentage of department, intellectual property rights, industry, academia, innovative practices, number of seminars, workshops conducted, number of papers written by the per teacher in the refereed journal. Now, Dr. Rajendra Sindhya ji will be looking for some data wherein the number of teachers who have been written the papers in the national international. For example, let us say in the St. Xavier's College, there are 68 teachers are there belonging to the art, science, social science and humanities all together. Now, 68 teachers have been written 322 papers in the national and 52 papers in the international journal. So per teacher can be calculated accordingly. It's not of the individual teacher, but it is the collective efforts, how it has been done over the 5 years. That is the way NAC will be calculating the number of papers written by the faculty member. Books and chapters in the edited volumes, extension activities, number of papers published per teacher in the journal is some of the things which NAC is looking. The dictionary of the Oxford states that innovations is a crucial to the continuing success of an organization. Organization here, it may be called as the higher education institution, which looks for a change, an alternation, a revolution, and a transformation, and a metamorphosis, and a reorganization. As the institution has been uh, started in the year 1689, the day from the 1869 to the 2020-21, there are a lot of metamorphosis has been happened in the college, because from the 2010 onwards, the college has undergone the autonomous status. So restyling, recasting the syllabus is part of the educational institution. Creating an atmosphere for the research culture is more important. The college may create the cell, maybe in different language you may call, innovations and entrepreneurship development cell, innovations hub, research parks, incubation center for successful. So self-sustaining companies can be established by the colleges. Government of India is having the several schemes, maybe the Digital India, Startup India, Stand Up India, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and Ek Bharat, Shresht Bharat. There are several schemes are there for the uh, colleges. The government of India would like to promote the Atal Innovations Mission, which you can look into the government of India site also. The government is promoting Atmanirbhar Bharat, which under the Niti Ayog, under the Atal Innovations Mission. My request to all the faculty member, look for the ARISE program of the government of India, wherein the government would like to promote with the different colleges and universities and ministries with the Startup India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and Make in India and Made in India program. If you look into the ISRO, ISRO would like to promote the propulsions and the green propellants and electric propulsion and advanced air breathing. There are some projects which are available with the ISRO. And robotics is another thing which the Indian Space Organization would like to promote. Ministry of Defense would like to promote the auto stabilizer system and communication modem with the 4G automatic link thing. So which you can look for the some of the things. Ministry of Food Processing and Industries would like to promote waste to wealth, alternative food packaging and materials, machinery for indigenous food products. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare would like to promote the health data analytics and artificial intelligence solutions, and also healthcare monitoring. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs would like to promote a project of the Project Water, Project Clean Air, and Project Move also. My request to institution is that the Peter Drucker sometimes back has said, innovation is the specific instrument for the entrepreneurship, the act that endows the resources with a new capacity to create a wealth. Atal Tinkering Lab is promoted by the Atal Innovations. Copyright registration process has been promoted by the Atal Innovation Mission. Intellectual property right, how it can be done. Tinker Fest has been done by the Atal Innovations Mission. My request to all the teachers is that with this picture, just to share with you, where there is a will, there is a way. The small person who is a repairee doing in the Bengaluru, he is having the solar cell in his vehicle and making the battery for the recharging. But if you are having the students and also the teachers can do little differently and make use of the young mind and create a new way of intelligence and also the innovations in the classrooms. Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is telling about the take up one idea, make that one idea into your life, think of it, dream of it, live on that idea, let brain and muscles and nerve, every part of your body be full of the idea and just leave every other idea alone. And this is the way you will achieve the success. मैं ऐसा सोचता हूँ उनके लिए सवेरे नहीं होते जो जिंदगी में कुछ भी पाने की उम्मीद छोड़ चुके हैं. उजाला तो उनका होता है जो बार बार हारने के बाद कुछ पाने का उम्मीद रखते हैं. There are several schemes available in the government of India with the Ministry of Skill Development, Atal Innovation Mission, Mudra scheme, then the Venture Capital Assistance Scheme, then the SIP EIT program, and Startup India and Stand Up India programs also available. What the National Development Scheme or the National Skill Development Department would like to promote the innovations as a support to early stage of the social entrepreneurs working on the innovative business and models to address the gaps. The college can become a training module for the government of India, the Skill India program, and the government would like to share that the Kaushal Bharat, Kushal Bharat, ये प्रोग्राम है गवर्नमेंट का, तो आप लोग देख सकते हैं. एंड द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया विद टेक्सटाइल मिनिस्ट्री would like to promote the Samarth scheme for building the textile sector also. So there are research, there are the various technological advance will be there in each part of the country, and you can take the use of that one. My way of reading the institution is that one. Government of India is coming with the one nation, one data concept. My request to all institutions is that one institution and one data should be there so that all the information, whatever you are having, it should be available in one place and it should be accessible to everybody. That is how you have to look for that one. As you created a platform for the faculty development program, for the teachers, I request that the 3C model, conduct of the classes, creation of the content, and connect with the student. The conduct of the classes may be face-to-face or a chalk and talk method or the online classes, or maybe the blended way of looking, or a MOOCs classes will be there. So creating that content for that type of the class is more important. And connecting with the student is also more important. Another 3 model for the institution level, I feel that the competition, cooperation, and collaborate with the others is more important. Competition anyway will be there. Cooperation and collaborate need to be done within the institution and many of the institutions. Lastly, I would like to share with you a few slides of the how accreditation with the detailed will be given when the institution come for the 4th cycle of accreditation. Earlier, you must have got the score on the criteria of the criteria 1 to 7. This time, the NAC will be giving you all the 107 metrics. If it is a autonomous college, there are 107 metrics will be there. All the 107 metrics, how you have scored, whether the score is a high, which is called as the 3.01 to 4, and whether the score is average with a 2.01 to 3, or whether the score is low with a 0 to 2. So all the metrics of the NAC will be validated on a 0 to 4 scale. This is how the comparison about the criteria wise. When you look into the third criteria, research, innovations and extension, the college must have got the 2.02, but in all other areas like curriculum, like infrastructure, teaching, learning, learning and evaluation, so student support and progression, and governance and leadership, and also institutional values, they got almost all 3.5 and above. Though they must have got the A grade, but in the research, innovations and extension, they could not score very well. If my way of the interpreting this data is that one, if the institution scores very well in the third criteria of the research, innovations and extension, other criteria, naturally the things will be very good in the institution, because the first two criteria learning depends upon the research, and next two criteria, infrastructure, student support and governance, also depends upon the research, innovations and extension. NAC will be giving you the graphical representation on all the 0 to 4 scale, wherever you got the 0, 1, 2 and 3, and all the 107 metrics, the institution will be able to get the result from the NAC. The new grading pattern will be there from the 1.51 to the 3.51 and above. This is how the grading point of the 7-letter grade will be there. एंड अंत में मैं इतना बता सकता हूं, असफलता एक चुनौती है, इसे स्वीकार करो, क्या कमी रह गई है देखो और सुधार करो, जब तक न सफल हो नींद चैन को त्यागो तुम, संघर्ष का मैदान छोड़ मत भागो तुम, कुछ किए बिना जय जयकार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों को हार नहीं होती। आप सबको धन्यवाद। धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, sir, for your most insightful words and for guiding us through the various criteria of NAC. You have in this short speech, you have explained the various criteria, also focused on the innovation and entrepreneurship hub, the extension activities, and most importantly, the 3C model that you told for the teachers and the college. Thank you so much, sir. I'm sure the participants across the country would have benefited a lot from your words of advice. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Moving forward, true to the spirit of our faculty development program, research feedback becomes a very important part. And here we have with us today, Professor Jyoti N.K., Associate Professor, Department of Psychology, Jai Hind College, who will be giving us her oral feedback on the faculty development program with respect to the arts and humanities. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Soni. Namaskara, Dr. Hegde. Good afternoon, Principal Dr. Shinde, all the organizers and attending members. Hope I'm audible. 5 days of sparkling insights to rekindle the spirit of research. Wow, St. Xavier's. Shout out to you. Thank you, St. Xavier's College, Mumbai and Brusa, Maharashtra. I'm Jyoti N.K., Associate Professor at Jai Hind College, as Soni said. The role of valedictorian, to say something about the humanities session, the 3C, as Dr. Hegde just mentioned, was more than well delivered across these 3 sessions. Compliments to the college management, Principal Dr. Shinde, Academic Head Dr. Gokarna, VP Dr. Annapurna, the Sutradars, Soni George and Ruby Pavri, teaching faculty, session coordinators, non-teaching staff, students, for curating as well as executing a very smooth online experience in higher education. The sparks were definitely reignited by the vista of speakers who were all well respected in their field. A big thank you to them for committed, knowledge-based presentations peppered with practical tips. Digital humanities, machine learning, highly topical, quantitative stats, survey research, meticulously informative, research, proposal writing, interdisciplinary debate, and the technical aspects of sourcing journals, plagiarism, touched on ground realities. I particularly remember the session on ethnography by Dr. Shubha and the enlightening discourse on writing for peer appraisal by Dr. Mala Panduram. They reminded us how doing research is both a science and an art. Insightful questions by fellow participants kept the session coordinate and session coordinators kept the momentum going. Namaste and a big thank you.
Thank you, Professor Jyoti. We thank you for your lovely words and for your insightful questions that you have asked us right through the 6-day program. Thank you so much. Okay. We would now like to call Ms. Sonal Dasani from Passion edX Foundation in Singapore, and we welcome you to give your oral feedback on the science faculty development program that we've had from the 15th to the 20th. Welcome, Dr. Sonal.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, respected Chief Guest, Dr. Hegde, Principal of St. Xavier's College, Dr. Rajendra Shinde, and all the faculty members and dear students who are participating here. I, Dr. Sonal Dasani, would like to talk about my experiences about this 6 days faculty development program by one of the most sought after college in Mumbai, that is our St. Xavier's College, for Reigniting Research Spark. Unlike most of the participants, I work for a non-profit organization which works for the betterment of education called Passion edX Foundation. But like most of the attendees over here, I have thoroughly enjoyed the 6 days learning and igniting journey that we have experienced. On behalf of all the participants of science faculty particularly, I would like to thank Principal Rajendra Shinde, Academic Head Dr. Karuna, and the entire organizing team for putting up such wonderful sessions together. Let me tell this to organizers that your efforts have successfully ignited the spark of research, and I'm sure it will turn out to be a chain reaction where most of the faculty members present over here will pass on this ignite to their students. Thank you, Dr. Rajendra Shinde, Dr. Karuna, members of Rusha, Maharashtra, and the entire organizing team. Throughout the course, experts have discussed various emerging trends in research methodology, starting from how to design a research problem to publication, filing the patent, and its industrial application. The icing on the cake was truly the talk by Dr. Hegde. Yes, sir, we Indians have always proved to find our ways with our will, and I'm sure we'll continue doing that. We will take advantage of various schemes offered by Government of India, and I'm sure we'll do better and better in the future to come. This lively discussions which has happened in past 5 days has sparked our spirit of finding the fact, and we will feel much more comfortable now in solve the problems. We started our sessions with Dr. Vishal Gupta, who has explained beautifully about picking up the right journal from the sea of information available. Otherwise, we always get confused where to give a paper for publication. He discussed with us the scope for the Scopus and the resources available at elsewhere sites. That is truly, truly useful to us, sir. Thank you so much. Dr. Bimal Roy has given us the complete picture of machine learning, and he lucidly explained us about the algorithms that are involved and the pros and cons of machine learning. Dr. Krishna Iyer has solved our biggest problem, is about how to choose the research problem. He systematically explained us the steps involved and the resources available that we can use to apply for a research grant. The explanations given by Ms. Geeta Zankar on survey research was absolutely thorough, and I'm sure all the members who have attended her session can build the questionnaire in a much better way now. Dr. Dayanand Sansanwal has sailed us through the sea of statistics very, very efficiently. He has discussed from types of data to differences between ANOVA and ENCONDA, and we all understood it so easily. We never realized that the session went on for 3 hours unless and until he himself announced that the session was 3 hours and it is completed now. He explained us SPSS and how we can denote our results so very well. Dr. Santosh Narora has given us that wow factor by explaining those 4 case studies and 8-step solution for bringing our research from lab to life. Thank you, Dr. Santosh, for demonstrating us the strength of research. We are all encouraged to think out of the box and contribute to Atmanirbhar Bharat. Dr. Rahul Dhote has explained the issues related to copyright and IPR so nicely. He has patiently answered all the questions to our satisfaction. We all are looking forward to have another couple of emerging sessions on writing research paper and understanding research metrics. Thank you once again to all the organizers of St. Xavier's College as well as RUSA Maharashtra for putting up such a wonderful program together. Thank you, Dr. Karuna, for giving me this opportunity to express my gratitude. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Sonal Dasani, for those lovely words of encouragement and for giving us a snapshot of the entire 6 days. All this would not have been possible without the able leadership of our Vice Principal Academics, Dr. Karuna Gokarn, who truly has been the wind beneath these wings that we've had, which has taken us to these great heights of making this FDP a true success. With this, I would like to invite our Vice Principal Academics, Dr. Karuna Gokarn, to propose the vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Soni. Good afternoon to all. I have this pleasant task of proposing the vote of thanks. At the outset, I would like to thank God for sailing us smoothly through the 6 days of this faculty development program on reigniting the research spark, exploring new methodologies and perspectives under the aegis of RUSA, which is also our IQAC initiative. My heartfelt gratitude to our chief guest, Dr. Ganesh Hegde, for his willingness to grace this occasion and for his kind words of wisdom. Thank you, sir. I would like to reach out to all the 17 speakers with warmth and gratefulness for their commitment to this program and for enriching every session with their expertise. Thanks to our wonderful participants present here for their cooperation and patience. We still have 2 more speakers before we end the 6-day FTP program. We are sure that this program will greatly benefit you in your research ventures. I would like to express my gratitude to my principal, Dr. Rajendra Shinde, Rector, Dr. Father Keith D'Souza, and the management for giving us the freedom and the opportunity for such an academic intervention. Many thanks to our PG students and PhD scholars for their readiness in providing their talented services as and when required. I fall short of words in thanking all my fellow faculty members. As you can see on the slide, the force behind this for their collaboration and cooperation in making this endeavor a reality. I would like to thank each one for dedicating their time and energy to the success of this 6-day faculty development program, as you see the names displayed on the slide. My special thanks to Brother Vivian and Lydia for their valuable suggestions and taking on complete responsibility for the live streaming on YouTube. Thank you, RUSA, for the funds because of which we could conduct this program without any registration fees. Kindly pardon me if I have missed out on some names. Thank you once again. I think we will take 2 minutes break before the first session of the day. The first session is a common session for both arts and science. Thank you.
You gave me roots and wings, saviors. Open my eyes to things, saviors. Somewhere along the way, you taught me how to fly and how to stay. In a world outside so differently, saviors, you helped me become more me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next session of the day of our faculty development program, Reigniting the Research Spark. We are going to start with our first speaker of the day, Dr. Anil Sutar, who is a professor at the School of Research Methodology at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. He is going to speak on essentials for writing a good research paper, very apt title for the final day of a course on research methodology. So we are starting a bit late today. We are late by about 20 minutes. So I would suggest that the talk would go on till about 4:20 or 25, and then for 5 to 10 minutes, we can take question answers. Sir, Professor Sutar, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
All right. Then I will request Professor Miriam Stewart to introduce today's speaker, and then I'll request Professor Sutar to proceed with his lecture. Over to you, Miriam.
Yes, thank you, Jyoti. I wish to welcome our esteemed resource person, Dr. Anil Sutar, for this first session of the 6th and last day of the program. Dr. Sutar is presently professor at the School of Research Methodology at a very premier institute for research and teaching in our country, that is Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Dr. Anil Sutar spent all his academic life at Karnataka University, Dharwad, from where he graduated with economics, applied statistics, and sociology, and obtained a master's in sociology. Sir was awarded the Junior Research Fellowship by the University Grant Commission, after which he pursued an MPhil and a PhD in sociology from the same university. Dr. Sutar started his academic career as an assistant professor in the Institute of in the Tata Institute of Social Sciences in 2001 in the Department of Research Methodology. Dr. Sutar became associate professor and chairperson of the Center for Research Methodology at TIS in 2011. He has 18 years of experience in teaching research methodology at master's and doctoral level programs, and has been involved in training and dissemination activities relating to research methods and analysis. He is also the convener of the MPhil and PhD programs at TIS, and is actively involved in mentoring and guiding research scholars in the institute. He has been involved with several training activities, for example, the UNICEF district facilitators. Sir has been invited as resource person for research related national and international workshops. Sir has been guiding MA and PhD students for research on diverse social, political, and educational themes, and his core areas of research interests include qualitative and quantitative research methods, education, participatory governance, and leadership. He has published several papers on themes of research methodology and democratic decentralization in national and international journals. Hence, the organizing committee of this FDP felt Sir was the apt person to talk to us on a much needed aspect of our research, which is the essentials for writing a good research paper. Sir, I welcome you to this Zoom platform and request you to begin your talk. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Miriam Stewart. At the outset, let me express my gratitude to St. Xavier's College administration, Principal Rajan sir, Vice Principal Dr. Karuna, and all other people associated with organizing this faculty development program through online platform. It is indeed my pleasure to interact with the faculty, doctoral scholars, and master students from all over India through this forum. I have been asked to speak on the essentials for writing a good research paper. As just now Dr. Mariam mentioned, I also anchor and coordinate the MPhil PhD program at TSS, and some of the insights I gained while interacting, dealing with our doctoral research students in their proposal presentation, synopsis, in their thesis writing. Those some of the insights I feel I should share with you all here. Again, as you know, there is a time constraint, but I will try to cover most of the essential within the given time period. Let me share my PPTs. Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah, if you could speak a little louder, because
Okay.
yeah, that will help. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry to disturb you.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So is it okay now? Now I am, I think, audible to all of you.
Yeah, this is better. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, what I am going to speak here is some of the essentials for writing a good research paper. I also understand that during all these days in different sessions, most of the aspects about writing a research proposal, ethics in writing, and methodology, almost all such issues have been covered already. What I am going to basically contemplate here is what are the some key issues that a budding research scholar, a young faculty should focus on in order to come out with a good research paper. Indirectly, in a colloquial way, I can also say that these are the essentials for even how one can become a good writer in academic sense. In academic sense, this is going to be the overarching theme. And most of you, even during this deliberations itself, you might have come across publications, writing papers, research reports. These are all quite important for not only faculty. Earlier, most of the times faculty used to get concerned about publication, publishing a book, publishing a research papers, and in academic circles, I'm sharing it in a bit lighter note. We used to come across most of the time, faculty, they used to talk about their increment, their promotion, their career advancement schemes, and the publications and papers were most of the time actually spoken in that context only. But now the concern which was mostly at individual level faculty, now it has become a concern of larger societal concern, in the sense now even universities, colleges, now they are actually quite concerned and worried about the kind of publications, research output they are producing it. Because as career advancement scheme was for individual faculty, now even the kind of ranking the universities, colleges get, and the kind of grants associated with ranking these all become quite important for even the universities and colleges. Now I come across even in most of the colleges and universities, even principals, vice chancellors become quite appreciative and quite encouraging whenever faculty approach them saying that they want to devote time on writing a book, they want to publish research report papers. I come across the principals, administration, they become quite helpful and they encourage them. This is wonderful. Now, despite of this kind of context, why do we have the culture of not publishing, not writing more compared with some of the internationally renowned universities? Because one of the important weightage given per ranking, be it top 100 world universities ranking, or even in case of ranking by our MHRD, the publication research output is quite crucial. Now my talk is basically in this context. What I understood through my, as I told you, through my experience, my interaction with the budding research scholars, doctoral students, I somewhere I come to the conclusion that writing is an issue of motivation. And this paper, even I could also say that this is essentials for writing a good research paper. I have titled. It could also be looked as a psychology of writing. Why do our research scholars, why do our young faculty, they are not forthcoming in writing paper, publishing? Why do our colleges, universities lack such kind of culture? This is the matter of concern actually. This issue need to be addressed. Otherwise, our dreams of actually reaching the level of world top 100 universities, that may remain distant only. So in this context, let me make my talk bit lighter, because this is my talk and one more talk are going to be the last sessions of this whole program. Let me come to some ground realities. For instance, in case of such issues like, for example, when it comes to our health, I will take particularly one examples like issues of obesity, overweight. People quite often they contemplate that nutritionist and the physical instructors and food experts. Most of the time, there are different perspectives. People say that it is nutrition, dieting is very crucial for maintaining a balanced weight. There are some perspectives, they say that it is physical exercise is also quite important, and some people even altogether go to different domain. It is a peace of mind, sound sleep, yoga, meditation. This is another domain. So of course, all these are important for keeping balanced weight. I'm taking particularly one variable, balanced weight, to overcome obesity. In this similar fashion, now I am drawing this analogy to the field of writing. What is so crucial for research scholars or a young faculty to become a good writer? I hope you can recollect my just said examples of keeping maintaining balanced weight. In the similar, I will give, there are different components which are quite important. This I titled as essentials. What are the quite critical aspects that are needed for a scholar or a young faculty to flourish as a good writer? most of the time, no, we focus mostly on writing skills. That is why, we often come across, academic writing workshops. Even there are even actually, MHRDs, this Human Resource Development Centers. They do under refresher programs. They do give a lot of weightage on academic writing skills. We also talk so much on software tools for citation, and there are so many technological advancements, softwares for editing the manuscripts and all these issues. Most of the times the citation, language skills, editing, copy editing, all these have been given due importance. But as I rightly told you, there are some motivational aspects, psychological aspects, and also attitudinal aspects. These have not actually, addressed properly. Even I may not be wrong if I say that, these motivational and attitudinal issues have not touched upon at all. Nobody even value them. Let me show you. There were some scholars, they did studies, and one particular study I am citing you by A.M. Johns, who did a survey research among young graduates in United States of America. And the purpose of John's research was to identify what are the certain educational skills that the young graduates in the United States of America they actually lack. They have deficiency. And Johns found that very interestingly, reading happens to be the quite critical issue among American graduating students, youths in America. Reading is quite critical, means the maximum deficiency was found on this variable, reading. They lack reading. They have difficulty in addressing issues of reading. Then second, Johns identified the listening. Second component, the American graduating students, they are very poor in listening. Of course, compared to reading, listening, they are okay a little bit, but this is second rank. Listening, they are very poor. Then comes writing. Means compared to reading, listening, American students, I don't know. They could manage to write. Maybe they may be having a lot of confidence and certain advantages of social cultural capital. They write. Writing is concerned, not an issue, writing, but still it is also an issue. Third important critical aspect Johns listed. Then when it comes to speaking, Johns did not find any graduates in America, they have problem in speaking. They can, speaking is quite, what I can say, quite normal issue. They attend seminars, they speak, they articulate ideas. What in otherwise in context of India and third world countries, actually South Asian countries and all, where English is second language. Most of countries in South Asia, they have their own mother tongue, and English happens to be a second language. Here we have this problem of speaking. That is why most of the time, in major cities and all, we give a lot of importance to speaking courses, how to speak a particular language in 30 days and all. But this is not an issue for them. So no, what I'm trying to tell you, we are emphasizing on writing to our doctoral students or young faculty, and we give credit to them if they publish one paper. We also count that in API, one paper published in national or international peer-reviewed journal will carry this much weightage. We are only, what I am trying to tell, I hope you are following it. We are coming to third point only directly. We are evaluating the third point, and reading and listening, we are not giving that much consideration. Of course, we can also say that reading, listening are in directly or indirectly, they are actually implicitly present in writing. But this need to be highlighted. My concern is that only. Suppose what I am trying to tell you, most of our students, when we ask them, doctoral students also, to write a paper, to write their draft chapters, they actually come across the problem of mental block. For instance, even some of you might have also, as faculty, you might have also experienced. Our students, research students, are quite good in data collection, going to the field, talking to the people, going to libraries, collecting archival data and all. But when research guides ask them, give me first chapter, they often they actually try not to meet research supervisor altogether. This is very problematic. Even I have seen students, they sit in library weeks together thinking about their chapter with a lot of literature with them. This concept in writing we call as a mental block. There are actually methodological procedure how to break this mental block. I will speak about that immediately after this. So what I am trying to tell you, that reading is quite essential. That is why, whenever it be it university grant commission or concerned universities or college administration, we most of the time we actually assess the faculty workload by number of credits of courses they are teaching, and how many articles and how many books the faculty is reading. Nobody is bothered. This is very unfair. So then there is also an issue. I understand how we can actually what I can say, how we can actually ensure that reading and reviewing literature and all this can be actually actually brought into the evaluation scheme, evaluation framework. There is an also issue how to do it. But what I am trying to tell you, that how many classes a particular teacher is teaching, the examination duty, evaluation, these are actually quantifiable variables. But how much how many books a particular faculty is reading, that is why let me share with you one interesting example. I was once a part of a selection panel for an assistant professor position in an university, and interestingly, the applicants, candidates who have shortlisted and who were coming for interview, they were most of the time they were bringing and displaying their articles, their research papers, their books, their research reports. And believe me, some candidates even brought one suitcase, and they were bringing their publications in luggage actually, and they were displaying on the panel, before panel. These are my ratings and my publication. And believe me, what happened, the chairperson of the panel asked one interesting question to a candidate who brought so many publications. Yeah, these are all your ratings. We know, we appreciate it. Keep that aside. Tell me, Mr. So-and-so, during the last 1 month, what book you have read? I hope you are getting the point. What book you have read? The candidates were thinking only my suitability for this position. sister, it is going to be measured on my publications, my research papers. I have brought these many things, and here the question is quite unconventional. The panel is asking the candidate, what you have read, you tell me, not what you have published it. That, believe me, honestly speaking, the candidate become quite nervous. Candidate started asking, shall I have a water, glass of water? Then they gave water and all. Then somehow he could manage, but the credibility of answer was not that much effectively convincing. Because if you say that during last 1 month I read this book, then you should also have author name, title of the book, publishers, and why you have read that book, what is the interesting debate in that book, whether that book is related to the course you are teaching, or it is your just interest in that book. All these you can't bluff up on such issues. Actually, this is important. Then listening. Then most of the time, listening is also not valued as intellectual. Because
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Please, can you put the slide on the slideshow mode, sir?
okay, one second.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So reading, I hope you understood how reading is very effective measure of assessing the person's suitability for teaching position. Then listening is not looked as an intellectual aspect. For instance, as I told you, even thanks Dr. Mariam has also highlighted about me that Sutar, Dr. Sutar happens to be anchor, coordinator of MPhil PhD program. Believe me, Dr. Mariam, as part of this coordination of anchoring of MPhil PhD program, during my these 15, I have attended almost around more than 2,000 of seminars. Listen to doctoral scholars from management, doctoral scholars from women studies, doctoral scholars from social work, doctoral scholars from development studies, doctoral scholars from disaster management. In TSS, we have almost 40 non-conventional master's program in the country. We have as many. Sometimes in every year we actually give admission to almost 100 PhD students. So we PhD students used to make presentations, their proposal presentation, their seminar presentation. I, in capacity as MPhil PhD coordinator, I had the advantage of attending all these presentations. Then believe me, I feel this is my achievement. I attended those many thousands of seminars, and that enriched my understanding. If you ask questions about research about anything, research about human issues, research about reproductive health, research about displacement and rehabilitation, research about job satisfaction, anything, I gained a diverse interdisciplinary. I'm not telling that it is dilution of specialization, but it is as Mariam told, we are very pioneer in case of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research and teaching. So what I'm trying to tell you, we never ask, we should give even importance for students to doctoral scholars, young faculty. We should encourage them attending seminars, symposium, conferences, roundtable discussions. Even in colleges also, we should make these as a regular routine events, discussion, listening. This is without reading and listening. If somebody claim he is a writer, he has published papers and book, means the credibility is questioned. So either some people may not be attending seminar, symposium, discussions, and all, but maybe they may be good readers. That is also okay, I understand. So what I am telling you, reading, listening leads to writing. So this mystical passion, essentials for writing a good research paper is first is reading, then listening, then comes writing. After writing, then you are entitled morally to speak. It is not like the political discourse in a very populist sense. People go on speaking without any accountability. Academicians, we are not of that kind. We should back up what we speak by saying our reading, the listening, then the kind of work research we have done and published. Then that gives us moral right to speak. This is the correct chronology of academic trajectory. So now, having said about this, then second important thing, how we never think writing is a very, as I told, quite psychological, and most of the time, writing, we think that it is happening at one go. No, it is actually a gradual. It is a process. There are different steps, and even the kind of location I mentioned here, planning, arranging the material. We most of the time we take writing paper research lightly. We take it quite lightly, but we should also make an attempt. Suppose if our St. Xavier's College library may not be having certain important historical books there, then we should make an attempt to go to TISS library, IIT, Powai, whether their humanities, they have that kind of work. I rarely come across, even people, I know people in Mumbai, for shopping, they go to different areas for different locations. Mall, this mall is good, that mall is good. But academicians, faculty, they don't have developed such passion for their own work. They should also visit different libraries. I am writing a work, an article, a paper on this issue. I will go that IFS. Suppose if you are working on something about migration, population, reproductive health, domestic international institution for population sciences, which is located nearby TISS. Is very government of India's deemed university. It has very good collections on such health, migration related issues. So this is what I'm telling. Again, I'm relating it to motivational only, because I being in Chambur for shopping, sometimes I go to Kargar Mall. I sometimes I go to Malad West for shopping. But why faculty from South Mumbai not coming to Navi Mumbai, not going to Powai for library reference and all? This not, of course, there are nowadays we are in the era of this e-resources and all. But with subject to this kind of lockdown and pandemic, I am actually not counting that here. We should make a culture of this kind actually. Then only if you devote that much time, I am going to IIPS from Mumbai, South Mumbai, I am going to IIPS for collecting some articles. Believe me, definitely your paper will be wonderful. Then location in the case where you actually sit for writing your paper. We hardly consider this as important. Should you write for work on your paper, your research paper in your home, or should you do it in your office space, or should you go to visit library? because now I can, as a research methodology professor, I have some insights. Now there is, because of thanks to e-resources, now the gap between library and professors has actually widened. Hardly even sometimes I visit our library. And the library staff, they stare at me, why is coming here? Because it is like, no, now professor going to library is like that in like Borivali National Park, no, a tiger is seen to the tourist, like that it has become. People were wondering, no tiger site is available. They wait for 2-3 years and one tiger will come. Similarly, now believe me, in university libraries, if a professor is faculty is seen in library, means no students and library staff will feel like that a tiger has seen now. So this is very important, whether, because there are also issues of what I can say, concentration, motivation. Suppose if you sit for writing paper in highly privatized individual space also, of course some people can even come out very well, but some people again, they also feel highly demotivated. But there are some people who do very well in there is also public demo effect, going to library, sitting there, and following that discipline, and all that can actually help people to concentrate more, and nothing wrong in that, because we do a lot of things to actually impress public, wear jewelry, buy very costly cars, build very expensive houses and all. Now, what is wrong if you go and sit in library with lot of books and articles, journals on your table? Let people say that no, you are impressionist, but otherwise also, but this is for good cause actually, what I am trying to tell. No, my own example I am telling. I can work from my office also. I read papers and I write in office also. From home also I can do. But whenever in a particular library, I have made a particular space. When I go there and all, I get actually immersed and highly motivated. That may be my weakness also, no problem, but that is helping me. These things are also important. Where you, how much you should devote, because you are multitasking person. Teachers are multitasking persons. Teaching is there, attending meetings, so many things we are doing. Then how much time I should devote for reading, writing paper, it should be planned actually. And once, for instance, I am telling you, some students, doctoral students, they used to do, because of pressure, they sit from morning to evening while writing only. Then that may actually affect the quality of the thought process. Then it dilutes the rigor. So based on my own experience, we did a kind of experiment with students also. If students are encouraged to write 1-2 pages every day, then in a week, one chapter can be written, and one paper should not be written in 1-2 days continuously. You work, and then there should be some break, as you given break, 2-3 minutes break after one session. What I used to do actually, I'm sharing it. It is nothing great, but it is quite therapeutic. I used to feel that I suppose I am working on a paper. I used to work, type my ideas. I used to reconcile ideas and organize them, and used to type. And one of my motivation, self motivation, was I used to count words. You may also feel that is also weakness. Yes, but that was good weakness that used to motivate. I used to count 200 words I have written. I used to feel happy. Then I used to move. For every 500 words, I used to take tea break. Then there was no mental strain and kind of nervousness. And this method was quite what I can say, recharging and quite motivating. So what I am trying to tell, these things are also very important. These are quite common. Then how much to write? I have spoken on it only, whether you can write 1 page per day or 2-3 pages per week, or you want to devote only Saturday. Sunday you can do for your leisure work, Saturday only for my paper. That this creativity should be there actually. Then these are some of the things, how one can make reading effective. Reading should become an hobby. One should identify classical works and article in a given topic you are working, and also one should make an habit of reading abstracts, reviews. Just instead of wasting time, that is also. And also, you should make note of important points and arguments from each paper. Then how to make listening more effective. Recall what is lectured, what is discussed on the issue, and write down it. Listening, not listening some religious discourse, because religious discourses are some other entertaining discourses are quite different. People even I have seen in religious discourses, the speaker make people to laugh. People laugh and then they go out. That is relaxation. But here it is not like that. Listening in academic, you should be alert. You should make a point. What a speaker is making, whether it makes sense, point, arguments. You should keep a diary always, a pocket diary. If you are research scholar, even take full-fledged diary, go to attend seminar, make points. Those things are quite important. Then drafting. With this, I think if it is almost 4 now. With this, I may conclude and I can open it for your question answers. Drafting. I will show you one slide. I missed it. This is very important. These are the important steps in academic writing. Pre-writing, as I told you, writing is not a one-time affair. Writing won't happen at one go. Believe me, please, because that unnecessarily put lot of stress among doctoral students, young faculty. Writing follows different phases, and writing is a process. So what is first phase? Pre-writing. Pre-writing is what I listed here. Reading, listening, collecting material, location, timing, deciding, planning it all. Then second stage in writing is drafting. Then revising, that is revision of paper. Then copy editing, then proofreading, then submitting for publication. So because of time constraint, now I am only pre-writing I have spoken. Drafting I will speak now. Yeah, this is drafting. What is drafting actually? This drafting is very interesting page in academic life. How many drafts? How many drafts of a chapter you write? How many drafts of your research report you write? And how many drafts of your PhD thesis you write? These are very interesting. So to begin with, I will tell you that drafting in the sense, you write a draft paper, and suppose I will take the example of a doctoral scholar, student, research student, and guide. Research students write a draft chapter, first chapter, introduction, submit it to the research guide. Then the research guide will go through it and revise it and give comments. Then again, it comes back to research scholar. Research scholars will work on the suggestions, revisions, then again resubmit to the research guide. Then again, research guide will give comments and suggestions. You know how long this cyclical process can go in Indian context, and also I think in South Asian context, but I have some idea about American experience and all. There, this drafting and revision is taken quite positive. And one professor from US, I had an interaction. She told that her guide, she worked on her PhD, and her guide actually finally approved and signed her 73rd version of her draft thesis. Means her all chapters were ready. First chapter, second chapter, 7 chapters were ready. All these 7 chapters, guide started revising, giving comments, and that whole process took 1 year. And 73 times the candidate has revised. And she was thanking my guide, was so serious, so involved, so cooperative, so much my guide has given time for my PhD. He read my paper all the times, suggesting, now that is how my PhD has come out so robust and excellent. But pardon me, I have come across some cases in university context of our country. Students, they take it personal actually. Guide, 3 times he is returning my paper, suggestions and all. I think I must do something to guide. I come across such kind of feedback from students also. So what I am trying to tell, even when as a writer you submit papers to publishers, and also they giving comments and asking you to revise, should always be taken in a positive spirit. But what to do, unfortunately, in our context, this is considered as a problem. Means I have been socialized, I have been trained, my upbringing in society like ours is like that. Whatever I say, people should accept. My mental framework is not actually open for incorporation, suggestions. So even you see it even at family level also, why people, they have a lot of stress, why they quarrel, why there are arguments in family and all, means people feel that they are perfect. Then what to do? Then universities should be closed down, no? If everybody is perfect, universities and professors should be sent for agriculture. No, it is not like that actually. Drafting should be considered with a positive spirit, and it has its own purpose. And the second important issue, I was removing mental block. I told 5 people. Suppose if I ask student write on a particular topic, even a paper, first thing they feel mental block in the sense they don't know how to start, and for that we should actually encourage a discussion about that topic, asking them to attend discussions, seminars, and the person who is going to, suppose if a faculty, young faculty in your St. Xavier's is working on a paper, and college can encourage the faculty by arranging the round table discussion on his paper. And college, the faculty can be given a forum to present her draft paper and seek feedback. These all things are quite initial idea also. I am sorry, I am telling paper. Even concept, you are working on a paper, full paper, but you have initial idea, we call concept paper, concept note. Concept note should be presented, peer review feedback should be sought. All such culture should be encouraged. Then that will remove mental block. Now the last important point for doctoral students and young faculty, this also comes as a very important advice. I am taking one simile. This is drafting is like a children's play, or drafting is like children's play. Drafting and children's play are same. At the outset, when I taught about this to doctoral students, they found it very vague. What the professor is trying to tell us. Drafting is like children's play. Drafting means you are going to write your initial chapter, initial first round of your writing. Am I right? First round of your writing. Then second draft means, that is why even in draft we should always have the practice of writing no date. Draft paper dated this. Second draft, third draft, fourth draft, because paper happens to be same, but you should identify that with the number of stages of rating it has undergone. So here I used to tell our doctoral students, drafting is like children's play. Means your initial writing, you should actually you can be more confident, and you can start writing very confidently, and the ideas will flow very easily, provided if you become quite what I can say, easygoing and liberal in what you are writing. To put it in other words, to put it in other words, when you are writing, don't write, for instance, what should be the first sentence of your paper, how it should be. These all are immaterial actually. When you are starting writing, the first draft or first paper first time, then you should not start it like a perfectionist. You should not start it like a perfectionist. You should not do it in a very orderly, in a very standard style. That is wrong. That won't take you anywhere. So now I am coming to children's play. When children, most of you might have seen children playing in your society compound or in neighborhood. When children comes to play, most of the time children's play is not orderly. It is not structured. It is also, events are also not sequence. I mean, children may first they start doing cycling, 4-5 of them friends, for 10-15 minutes. Suddenly they will abandon bicycle somewhere in the corner of society. Then parents may start looking where they have all gone, disappeared. They may go somewhere in garden. They may be again started playing in slides, swing. Then they will leave that also, and then they will go somewhere, run, and then they may play with water also. Then parents should not get disturbed why they are not doing it systematically. Why they should play today cycling, then tomorrow they should play this. No. Similarly, when you are writing, what you should write, whether what you are writing is appropriate, what I am writing makes sense, what I am writing is relevant or not. Thinking this is actually absurd here. In drafting, you should not think it. What you are writing, whether it is relevant, whether it makes sense, whether it is proper, paragraph is too long, paragraph is too small, all these are decided at revision stage. That is third stage. So I hope you are getting my point. I think I could make some sense of it. I think drafting, in drafting, ordering, structure, style, relevance, irrelevant of what I am writing, language, syntax, grammar, all should not be actually considered at all. You should write like children's playing it. Yeah, with this, I think I conclude it here. And now over to the organizers. If you have any questions and all, I can take up them for answer. Should I stop sharing screen?
Yeah, I think you can, sir. And if there is any need to refer.
Okay, I will again take it back. No problem.
Again.
Yeah.
So thank you, sir, for a very nice talk full of many examples from our day-to-day life. There are a few questions or suggestions or queries that have come up in from the participants. So I will read out a few of them to you, sir. So one of the
Yeah, sure.
person, Prashanti Patel, is asking if you could give some information on critical skills that we need to write well. Like you have, of course, told many, but if you can just repeat some of the things that you were saying, what are the critical skills required for writing well?
Like critical skills, no, basically critical in the sense critical reading, thorough reading is no what I believe in reading, and no then one important thing, basically I have kept it the young faculty, budding scholars in mind. One critical important things I would like to share is one can start this journey of writing, becoming writer, no, with small steps. Like for instance, I insist my students, no, some of students they are working on environmental issues. I used to insist them write to editors of leading dailies on issues of environment on daily whenever there are issues that are happening. Writing letters to editor could be a good exercise. I don't know how many PhD scholars, how many research students they do write to editors. Writing letters to editors, it may be popular news, dailies, or it could be even academic journals. That could be one step. Start with that. That give you a lot of motivation. That make you to acquaint with the culture of writing, drafting, and styles of citing, and ways of communication, all that. Then a second way could be, before going to big research papers and all, think about book reviewing, very small exercise, most of the articles, journals, for instance, some of the interesting social science journals in our context, like Economic and Political Weekly, they do have a separate section on book review. And sometimes they also announce which are the books they are considering for review and all. And almost all journals in different disciplines, be it psychology, sociology, political science, they have sections for book review. Read books and write reviews, that will enhance. What I am trying to tell, till then I am not saying that you don't contemplate up writing paper, but this is how a young beginner can start her or his journey. These things are very important.
Yeah.
Then yeah, okay.
No, sorry, sir. Go on. I thought you had finished. Sorry.
Yeah, no, this is very important, this procedure. Then again, seeking feedback, peer reviews, these are also important. First is critical for me. What I understand is, critical means very inevitable. Critical means inevitable. Inevitable in the sense, very rich reading. That is very important. Language, I don't consider language, skills and all are important, because anyway, even if you are writing a book also, despite you being a distinguished professor writer, still the publication house will copy edit your book, monograph.
Yes.
There are policies.
That is true.
You don't bother about language editing and all. So that is why I used to tell, I have one of my assumption, not my argument, that an illiterate person can be a good book writer. A person who is illiterate can become an author and a writer. For instance, in our rural India, there are a concept of dais, the maternal helps, those who assist rural women in their delivery, pregnancy and all. And there are some dais who have been doing this work for the last 40-50 years in their life. And they have much more rich insights about reproductive health, pregnancy, delivery complication than any gynecologist in Mumbai hospital, the Dai in rural area. She is having that richness of knowledge. But if professor asks her to tell that, and if Jyoti Singh writes it, drafts it, then that Dai become writer.
Yes.
We are actually not considering that. Where the language becomes an important, I don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you are
Yeah.
right. So there is one more question from Ketki Dharmadhikari asking, is it better to directly quote a source or to paraphrase when citing some literature?
No, ideally speaking, no. If you are giving citation, if you are giving citation is very important. And while paraphrasing also, then you should do justice that the original intent of the author is not diluted.
Mm-hmm.
That is also possible. Always you can't actually give verbatim. Sometimes because in literature review, I have to actually quote 7 authors in 1-2 lines, like authors such as Jyoti Singh, Mariam Seward, Karna Gokarn, in their works. Am I right? What you have done, I am paraphrasing here only. But while that is also important, paraphrasing is needed in writing, but we should ensure that that is not actually affecting the original the message, the original argument of the authors. Both are okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any means you could suggest to remove mental blocks? That's a question.
Yeah. The mental block, I told you, attending, we should encourage if the doctoral students are there, in case of doctoral students, organizing lot of seminars, asking them to attend, encouraging them to make presentation, small informal group discussions, a culture of discussion and sharing academic ideas. These are quite essential, mental block.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you suggest a good scientific writing course for research scholars? Sujata Tankar is asking.
As I rightly told, academic ratings and all, even in TSS, we have one particular 2-credit course on academic writing skills. But we don't offer any diploma or certificate or short-term program in scientific writing. But those students who join PhD, they may approach universities and may get, they may pay certain fee for that course. And that particular course, it is possible provided if you are a faculty or doctoral student in other universities.
I see.
Then your university, with your university, your guide recommendation, you can approach institute like TSS and attend those courses.
So when is this course run? As a part of a semester?
Yeah, part of we have modular workshops as part of PhD coursework.
Mm-hmm.
One can think of it. So I can share details with Dr. Karna if possible.
Okay.
But it is not on in a regular and open for everybody in that sense. It is only need based, provided your guide, your college principals, they recommend. They can, but there may be some other university they may be offering. I have not much idea about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somehow we have lost the sound coming from Dr. Sutar, or am I the only one who is not able to hear him?
Yeah, I am speaking. Is it okay? Am I audible now?
Yes, now you are audible again. So I think I have covered most of the queries that the participants had, sir. So I would now call upon our student Uzma Sheikh from microbiology to propose a vote of thanks. Uzma?
Okay.
take this opportunity to thank you, sir, for sharing your time and precious knowledge regarding the concept of research paper writing, the importance of reading and listening for effective writing, taking us through the roadmap of effective paper writing, and answering all our questions and eventually inspiring us to write better. I also deeply thank the faculty members involved in organizing the webinar series and the principal and management of St. Xavier's College for encouraging these fruitful interactions. Much thanks to the participants too for following the netiquette and for being actively involved in the session, asking a lot of questions and for your interest in the talk. Finally, I thank the Almighty for a successful webinar.
Thank you, Uzma. With this, we come to the end of our first talk of the day. I would like to announce that the science stream participants have to now shift to another link for continuation of this today's session with the next talk, which is aligned for them. The arts and commerce faculty and students who are participating in this FDP will continue to stay on this link itself because their next session is going to be on the same link. So thank you very much, Dr. Sutar. And with this, we will now move, all the science faculty and science participants will now move to the second thing. Dr. Karun, have you given the link of second YouTube link on the chat for the right now? Yeah, okay. So people will find it. The arts and commerce people will stay on here and the science people will move to the next link. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good evening, this is Perry here. Dr. Karuna, so we just wait till Dr. Kanchana Mahadevan joins us. She's going to join in at 4:35.
roots and wings. Saviors, open my eyes to things. Saviors, somewhere along the way, you taught me how to fly and how to stay. In a world outside so differently, Saviors, you helped me become more me.
To walk over rough roads, to open our minds, to ask the right questions and answers to find. Even though we stand alone, we know that we have grown, all because you've shown skies beyond.
Saviors, you gave me roots and wings. Saviors, open my eyes to things. Saviors, somewhere along the way, you taught me how to fly and how to stay. In a world outside so differently, Saviors, you helped me become more me.
To reach out believing, to love is to share, in giving, receiving, learning to care. To a world that's one big surprise, we live and we learn to rise, from valley to lofty skies, up, up, beyond.
Saviors, you gave me roots and wings. Saviors, open my eyes to things. Saviors, somewhere along the way, you taught me how to fly and how to stay. In a world outside so differently, Saviors, you helped me become more me. You helped me become more me. You helped me become more me. Saviors, you gave me roots and wings. Saviors, open my eyes to things. Saviors, somewhere along the way, you taught me how to fly and how to stay. In a world outside so differently, Saviors, you helped me become more me.
Fly
roots and wings. Saviors, open my eyes to things. Saviors, somewhere along the way, you taught me how to fly and how to stay. In a world outside so differently, Saviors, you help me become more me.
To reach out believing, to love is to share. In giving, receiving, learning to care. To a world that's one big surprise, we live and we learn to rise. From valley to lofty skies, up, up, beyond.
Saviors, you gave me roots and wings. Saviors, open my eyes to things. Saviors, somewhere along the way, you taught me how to fly and how to stay. In a world outside so differently, Saviors, you help me become more me. You help me become more me. You help me become more me. Saviors, you gave me roots and wings. Saviors, open my eyes to things. Saviors, somewhere along the way, you taught me how to fly and how to stay. In a world outside so differently, Saviors, you help me become more me.
Fly like an eagle, discover new skies. With wings we've been given to soar ever high.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Perry here. Dr. Kanchana Mahadevan.
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening.
So my name is Perry, and I'll be seeing through the events for the evening.
Okay.
And I have my colleague, Dr. Akshara, who will be helping us with the questions towards the end of the session. We
Okay,
have time
wonderful.
till 6,
Okay.
and maybe we'll just leave the last 10 minutes for the questions. Yes?
Okay.
Okay. So good evening to our participants who've been waiting on our YouTube link. Thank you for joining us. I have a short introduction, ma'am, for the benefit of our participants. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Kanchana Mahadevan. She is professor and head at the Department of Philosophy, University of Mumbai. She teaches and researches in the area of feminist philosophy, decolonization, critical theory, political thought, aesthetics, and film. She has a phenomenal amount of work that she has done, some of which is exploring reinterpretations of care ethics with reference to migration and Indian feminism. She's engaged with the concepts of caste, gender, and intersectionality as crucial dimensions for decolonization, decolonizing thought. She has also been investigating Western philosophy's reception by contemporary Indian thinkers. She's currently working on the relationship between the secular and the post-secular from comparative and gendered perspectives. She's also examining populism and democracy from the perspective of comparative philosophy. Her book, Between Femininity and Feminism, Colonial and Post-Colonial Perspectives on Care, has It's been published by the Indian Council of Philosophy Research in collaboration with DK Print in 2014, and it examines the relevance of Western feminist philosophy in the Indian context. Dr. Mahadevan has also been holding visiting professorship and fellowship with several universities, some of which are with LUISS University in Rome with the Department of Political Science and Center for Ethics and Global Politics. She's also been teaching PhD courses at the Goethe University, Frankfurt, and she's been a senior fellow there. She's also worked on the secular and post-secular comparative feminist explorations when she was a senior fellow at the Moore Institute, National University of Ireland, Galway. Ma'am, it's really a pleasure to welcome you to our final session of the 6th day FTP. You could start with your session. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Perry Subramaniam, and thank you, Professor Rashmi George, for having me over to discuss how we can engage with visual, or whether we can engage with visual art in the research that we do from the position of social science. This is a very, very complex topic. It is something that I do all the time. I engage with visual art, and I also engage with cinema. I teach film and philosophy. And when Professor George suggested this topic to me, I thought it would be kind of a catalyst for getting into the whole spirit of what I'm doing and what one does when one does this kind of a research. And I found it to be extremely complex, so I'm going to discuss some of those complexities. And towards the end, I have a PPT, which I will share with you, but that is only towards the end. Now, I've got a lot of readings for this, which I will be circulating soon after class today. And I think it would be helpful if this is also circulated to the participants who are there. No, and I'll be mentioning the works that I have referenced and cited in the course of my presentation. Okay, I'll switch off the video because I would like to open my paper just now, so please bear with me. Yeah. Okay, so visual arts based research. Now, during this whole workshop, you've been thinking with a lot of issues pertaining to how to write a research paper, what is a qualitative research like, etc., etc. So that is one kind of research and one kind of perspective on research, where we take text, we take field work. Some of us, of course, are also doing actual theoretical work. We try to integrate our field work with our theoretical.
Ma'am, you've muted yourself.
I'm trying to, just a second. I
Sure.
might end up leaving for a second because I don't know why I'm not able to view my screen. Okay, yeah, now I get it. Now I'm fine. So I'm okay. Now today, what I'm going to do is, it's not your typical qualitative methodology versus quantitative methodology, the merits of each, which is something we always discuss in doing research, nor is it a discussion of a kind of perspective on how to write a research paper. How do we actually sit down? What is the whole craft of writing a paper? It's not even that. What is this that I'm trying to do today in the context of what were the topic that was given to me? I'm trying to make sense of how we engage with visual art in our social science research or in our literature research. So while writing a literature paper or a thesis, or while writing a social science thesis or a paper or a book or whatever, I could be referencing art. I could be referencing painting, I could be referencing sculpture, I could be referencing cinema, I could be referencing all of this. What does it mean? Why do I reference it? And what does it mean to do so? Why do I reference it? What does it mean to do so? And how do I go about doing this? What are some of the challenges? Because it's very nice at one level to say that we today realize in the course of preparing for this session, the kind of challenges that research in visual art presents itself to us. Now, the examples that I'm going to give you are all going to be from painting, although you could expand the terrain and you could think about literature, you could think about even cinema, but for it will not be possible to speak about all the different dimensions of visual cultures that we are surrounded by. So I decided to stick to painting for most part, but on one or two examples, I might quote from literature and architecture as well. Okay. So can we research with visual arts, particularly painting, sculpture, and film? And can we do so in the academic context of humanities, social sciences, and literature? And humanities, social sciences are include here under humanities and social sciences in brackets, philosophy as well, which is a very theoretical discipline from where I come, and very empirical disciplines such as sociology, which requires surveys, which requires first-hand data, which requires field work. Philosophy doesn't require that kind of field work. It is a largely theoretical subject. And of course, literature, particularly academic writing in literature is what I mean. So I don't mean writing a short story or a novel. What I mean is writing a literary criticism paper, which is looking at texts. So basically, one is thinking about academics and academic research in institutions, which we do with texts. Now, texts in different ways. There is texts pertaining to social knowledge. There are texts pertaining to philosophy. There are texts pertaining to literary writings. Now, different kinds of texts. Now, I'm for the purpose of communication and the shortness of time, I'm just going to put all this in one bag, as it were. Yeah. So these different kinds of texts, because there are huge differences between these texts, but we put them all together and we simply say that these are textual disciplines, and they are very academic. Academic, what is the job of an academic? An academic is someone who researches, particularly in colleges and universities, and the research is based on writing. So what I want to produce is written work when I research. And I do planned work. I plan and I write. Okay. So I plan and I write, and I have a goal to which I work. And my planning implies that I have a methodology. I have to follow methodology, and that's what you've been learning today. That there is a methodology in research, and social sciences, humanities, literature have methodologies, and they have to be followed. Otherwise, how do you go about writing? That is, if you have to produce an output, how can you do that without following a method? Now, the problem is that when you start thinking about the world outside the academy, we are surrounded by experiences, images, visuals. We are surrounded by all of this. And the sensory side, the experiential side, the feeling side. Now, we are supposed to keep all this aside when it comes to academic writing, because academic writing has to be objective. It cannot be subjective. So the sensory side, the experiential side, the feeling side, etc., that we are surrounded by, broadly speaking, visual art, which is going to give you a lot of these images that are sensory, that are basically invoking our feelings, which we also experience. Now, these are pretty subjective in relation to the academic research that we do. Academic research is very determinate, it is very explicit, a lot of verbosity. You have to keep articulating and spelling out. This is what we do in our research, right? We keep spelling out. We teach our students, our research students also, spell it out, make it explicit. But what is visual art doing? Visual art is not verbal, it is suggestive, it doesn't spell out, it's something that implies, it shows, it doesn't say, it is indeterminate. Whereas academic research is very determinate, very fixed, very verbal, very explicit, etc. Academic research aims at producing more and more texts within institutional context, right? And these are funded projects for most part. So one important thing with academic research is that academic research requires approval. We often write proposals. You've had a session on that, I believe. Writing a research proposal, there is a way of writing. There is a acceptable. Let me put it like this, not one way, but many acceptable ways of writing research proposals. So if you have to get a grant, you'll have to write a proposal in a certain way for the authorities to examine it, evaluate you, etc. So there is a certain procedure for that, which you will have to follow. You can't simply do it off your head, So there is an institutional context in which your academic research happens, where you write proposals in a certain way. There are set formats, there are acceptable formats. And here I'm reminded of a student of mine, a very brilliant student who is now abroad. Now, this student asked me a question that he wanted to write his research paper in an aphoristic way. Why is that? Because philosophers like Nietzsche or Wittgenstein, they have written in the aphoristic form. So he pointed out to me that why can't I write my MA dissertation using aphorisms? Because after all, this is something that philosophers have done, and why should I not do it? Now, I pointed out that an aphorism is a proclamation. Now, yes, there is a certain style that philosophers have chosen, and it's an important style. I don't deny that. But in the context of the writing an MA dissertation within the framework of the university system, not even Harvard is going to allow for aphoristic form, because it simply means that I declare and proclaim my thoughts without really giving solid argumentation for it, without really bothering with things like evidence, and I can keep flitting from one thought to the other. So he asked me, why do we read Nietzsche then? Now, Nietzsche does give argument, and in his aphorisms, there are arguments. And I pointed out, and I gave him the instances. For example, when in The Will to Power, when he gives arguments, he argues against the idea that power is control or domination. He gives an account of power as a constructive creative force, and he argues against the standard notion of power. But he does not argue from premise to conclusion in the pattern that we are used to seeing in universities, but he argues in an alternate way through scattered suggestions, so he will give you one line in one aphorism, he'll give you another line of thought continuing the earlier line of thought after 3 aphorisms, and we have to read it many times to piece it together. So piecing together Nietzsche's argument is a philosophical endeavor, that is itself a very important creative act for a philosophy student, and it is something that he was welcome to do. Now, so clearly, what this whole discussion suggests is that there is a big tension between academic research, which is very, very textual, and the research, art, not research in art. I won't be looking at research in art. I will be looking only at how art can enter into humanities and social science research. That's what I'm interested in looking at. So art works are creative, they are not systematic, they are not institutional even, because I mean, which institution did Van Gogh, for example, belong to? So if we were to think of art and artistic institutions, really, which institutions can you invoke here? Of course, there is institutionalized painting happening, and there is a certain style of painting, say progressive artists painted in a certain way. There is the Bengal school of painting, there's the Bombay school, etc. But all those differences apart, right? It is not like as though there's a teacher somewhere who's telling you, who's giving you a methodology and saying that you follow this methodology in your painting. It simply happens that visual artists present what they think, they imagine rather, more than thinking. There is an emphasis here on imagination, and visual artists are perhaps not even interested in dialoguing with the social sciences or humanities or literature. Maybe they're not even interested in dialogue, whereas social sciences, literature, humanities, at least on paper, they gear themselves towards dialogue. They are interested in dialogue, they're interested in interfaces, trying to find out commonalities and so forth. Now, visual art is a very experiential domain. That is the whole point. For an artist, this is an experience. This is a very, very intense experience that is being expressed in a way, and it can perhaps not be translated into words. That is one problem. But there's another problem. Is the visual artist trying to give us any kind of knowledge? Because the last thing that I think a painter would think of himself or herself doing in a primary way is trying to give knowledge. So giving knowledge or handing over knowledge, this is something that knowledge production, that is the task of academic research, which is very cognitive in its orientation, and hence it is very articulate, it spells out everything and so forth. But artistic research is not so cognitive, it is not so specific, it is not so articulate, it is expressive, but it is not articulate quite in the sense that academic work is. Now, so there are two different worlds, as it were, that we confront, and these two worlds can't even be understood through our typical nomenclature in research. What is the nomenclature that we use? Qualitative research versus quantitative research, theoretical research versus empirical research. Now, one can't even capture this distinction through this standard dichotomy, because the world of social science, humanities, and literature in the academic world is planned, it is methodical, and it is predictable also. Because if my student sets out to write a paper just now in the MA dissertation, there has to be an outcome. The student can't simply say, oops, I didn't get inspired, I couldn't finish the paper, I didn't write it, and it's scrapped. That is out of question. You would have to produce So it is not only all of this predictable, but it is also outcome driven. There has to be a concrete outcome of that research. There has to be a paper. That paper has to draw attention to some part of social reality or economic reality or political reality, or then it would have to analyze literary texts in a certain way, or then it would have to be some interpretation of philosophical texts. Now, these are specific outcomes, and they also aim at having an impact on policy and further growth in academic institutional context. Now, the world of art, on the other hand, is totally unplanned. It is contingent, it is inspirational, it is unpredictable. And what methodology does an artist really follow? Right? It is other than what is called the origin of art. You know, the word art originates in the Greek term aesthesis, right? And what is aesthesis? Aesthesis is basically a whole array of spontaneous sensations, sensory data, experiences that engulf us. That is what we mean by aesthesis. So if that is the basis of art, and particularly the kind of art forms that we typically understand art to mean, then clearly how can we integrate academic research and art? It's a very complex question. Now, we find that someone like Heidegger, I'll be referring to him later on, the philosopher. I don't know how many of you are from the discipline of philosophy. Perhaps nobody here is from the discipline of philosophy. I'm not sure, because one of the problems with me is that I'm rooted in philosophy, and so there could be a gap, you know, when I mention thinkers like Heidegger. But very simply, Martin Heidegger is a philosopher who has this very powerful critique of technology. Now, he points to the problem of technology as a problem of instrumentalism. That technology is about overemphasizing means to an end, taking an instrument and taking it forward. And this is the whole problem with technology, according to him. And the inspiration for this comes from art for Heidegger. It is Van Gogh's pair of shoes that helped him, you know, articulate this distinction between technology and art, for example, that art is not instrumental, technology is instrumental. This whole insight perhaps is spelled out through Van Gogh's paintings, particularly Van Gogh's pair of shoes, which I will be showing on the PPT and discussing towards the end. But then this kind of a research work, you know, it's acceptable in philosophy even, you know, to be inspired by painting and then to write a whole big critique of technology and to articulate art as a kind of a creative receptivity, as the answer to some of the problems that befuddle us in this crisis-ridden world today. A world ridden with a crisis is something that Heidegger himself identified at his time. The crisis of concentration camps, the crisis of mechanized farming, this is something he pointed to, and storing stuff, you know, so converting everything to a gigantic storehouse, and also the atomic bomb. You know, these were examples that he gave of technology. Now, he draws from empirical world, no doubt. All these are derived from empirical world, is examples. But the inspiration for articulating a critique of technology comes from art itself. Now, is that adequate? You know, from the point of view of social science, say sociology. Is this an adequate way of looking at things? Because sociology would say you need your field work, you need to formulate your hypothesis after going through some field work, do some pilot studies, and then see how you could be defending your hypothesis, what are the counterexamples that would come in your way, etc. Now, none of this is a part of what Heidegger is doing, right? He's articulating a certain critique, and he's not even looking at the counter critique, and there is a certain development of that thesis via the inspirational mode. Now, can this really be sustained in social sciences, this kind of inspirational work? Because I'm going to point out that introducing works of art in social science, humanities, and philosophy research is actually an inspirational act. It is also an act of intuition, and there is a subjective element in all of this, and it is an imaginative endeavor. So intuition, inspiration, imagination, all of these terms are deeply subjective. And is your research worth anything if it is subjective? So obviously, I'm going to say that in the social science world, you're engaging with artworks, and particularly the visual arts is going to be very, very limited. You can't base your entire thesis on that, but a work of art might help you see the world in a certain way, which is radically different from the earlier way in which you were seeing the world. And seeing the world in a new way might throw a greater light on your research. This is the argument I'm going to develop. But there is something we need to bear in mind when we do this. Jacques Rancière points out that works of art do not anticipate their effects. That's a very important thing. So when someone writes a poem, or when someone paints a painting, when Van Gogh painted his pair of shoes, he could not even anticipate that that would become the debate of so much of 20th century philosophy. Nor would he have anticipated that his pair of shoes becomes a kind of a symbol for a ruralism that Heidegger defends him as doing. So paintings do not really anticipate their effects in the sense of telling us what direction to take. They are simply there and they provoke our imagination. But for them to provoke our imagination, I should feel, I should imagine, and I should also be capable of some degree of intuition. And this is something for which I can't really have a methodology, but I can only be opening myself other than an open mind. And I could be exposing myself more and more to art and art cultures. And when I do that, perhaps this would happen. Now, why, given this kind of a difficult relationship between the two, why is it that I would still be interested as a social scientist in engaging with research that is coming from visual art? Why do I want to engage with a visual art work in my research? Why should I engage with, there is a very, you could Google this because I could not, I had a little bit of a difficulty because I had prepared a PowerPoint with 2 paintings, but you could go ahead and look at them yourself on the internet. It is called, one painting is called the School of Athens, and it is on the Sistine Chapel, and it is a painting by Raphael, and a very important painting by Raphael for philosophy. Just Google it and you'll get it. You can open your mobile phones and just to look at it. The School of Athens. Now, when you look at this School of Athens painting, you will find that right at the center is Plato and Aristotle. And Plato is pointing to the heavens above, Aristotle is pointing below to show the differences in their philosophies. Aristotle is someone who has defended a kind of an empiricism. And then there is Plato, who is, of course, got the world of forms and who doesn't really look into empiricism. Now, Raphael wanted to bring in, and he did introduce a figure there, and her name is Hypatia, a woman philosopher. A woman philosopher who was killed by in a mob lynching, actually, because she was someone who was deeply scorned at and critiqued by the establishment of her time. So Hypatia just died. In a way, her fate is similar to Socrates, who also had to drink poison and die because the state ordered him to do so. And this is something that is always talked about in philosophy books, and in philosophy classes, how brave Socrates was, how he stood up for his beliefs, how he died for his beliefs. But then so did Hypatia. But Hypatia is someone we don't talk about. And Raphael had to kind of play a trick and also wipe out Hypatia and blur her in the painting because when he showed it to the church authorities at that time, they did not like the fact that Hypatia was represented in the painting. So there is a kind of an order relationship to Hypatia there, with the School of Athens. Now, when you look at another painting, and this is from the 16th century Raphael, this is a philosophy painting. It can be celebrated in philosophy classrooms. It can be talked about because every single school of philosophy is represented in that painting. And even Hypatia can be dug up by pointing to a blurred figure there. Now, there is Pythagoras, there is Heraclitus, there is Parmenides. Everyone is represented there. So the richness of philosophy, the diversity of schools of philosophy, and the whole idea, of course, is that the Greek culture was a Renaissance after all. So the Greek culture was one where a lot of new ideas were born, so much of pluralism was there, and a similar kind of pluralism and birth of ideas is what Raphael perhaps is defending, in the Renaissance context, the need to paint in the same free spirit and create something anew, the way Greek, the cradle of civilization, as it were, gave birth to so many ideas. The same spirit has to be continued. But then when you go to the 20th century, and then you have from the 18th century onwards with Mary Wollstonecraft towards the end of the 18th century, the rise of the feminist movement. And this is something you see, becoming more and more powerful in the 20th century. So when you start looking at the School of Athens, you're pretty much aware that well, this is an all-male thing, so it is a largely masculine enterprise, and it is the entire painting is populated by men. And where is really Hypatia? That is the big question. Is Hypatia there at all? So we have, please Google again, there is a painting, and this is also, it's not a painting, I'm sorry, it's an installation by Judy Chicago. And it is an installation called The Dinner Party. The Dinner Party, and it is an installation that was created sometime, she's an American artist, between 1974 and 1979. That was the height of the feminist movement, and she dedicates it to Hypatia. And Hypatia is important because it is someone who is absent, but who is eternally present there. And she brings out a whole big gallery of women thinkers here in this in this installation. So you have in Judy Chicago's painting 39 settings for 39 famous women. Some of them are mythical, some of them are real. You have Sojourner Truth, you have Georgia O'Keeffe, you have Virginia Woolf. So you have a wide range of women there, you know, and you have Socrates' teacher Aspasia also, you know. Now so we have different tables where the dinner table is very elaborately kept, a very ceremonial banquet is laid out, and women are there, you know, very much present. They are not simply shunted aside, and you find that the painting simply is shows the endless work that has been done by women in academic context. It is also a critique of the patriarchy that is there in traditional modern art, such as the School of Athens. Now, obviously, when I look at the School of Athens and then I come back to the dinner party and I start looking at the dinner party, what I see in these two paintings is that one has got a whole lot of men and the other has got a whole lot of women. Of course, the 39 figures, there are the historical figures, but then it has also got a huge, many more tributes paid to women from mythology and culture and all of that. And it is a very, very large number, you know, of women whose names are mentioned, because the need to mention the name, the need to visualize, the need to articulate women, you know, Judy Chicago's painting. Now, and it's also quite multiracial. Okay. Now, with all of this, clearly, when I go from one painting to the other, what I realize is that philosophy has neglected women. Now, philosophy has neglected women. It is a very patriarchal subject. It's a patriarchal discipline. But then we could say this about sociology also, that there is a great deal of focus in sociology and politics on the public sphere, on the external, but then what happens to the internal spaces or to domestic spaces, etc. What happens to women's way of working with knitting, stitching, cooking, mechanical everyday work. A lot of this is represented in Judy Chicago's painting. So this painting can inspire, and we can engage with Judy Chicago as well as the School of Athens, which is absolutely brilliant. So is Judy Chicago's painting. We can start engaging with the patriarchal nature of our social sciences and humanities, thanks to inspiration from these paintings. We could start exploring empirically in sociology and politics, the public sphere versus the private sphere. We could start exploring in philosophy the difference between the disembodied mind and the embodied thinking of women versus the disembodied minds of male thinkers. And we could start examining the very activity of philosophy. Is the very activity of philosophy pure thought, or is it something that is capable of actually, you know, doing something more than just thinking? Can it also participate and collaborate with experience? And what role do women play in this? How does women's work, which is rather compared to philosophy, we can track it in sociology. How does it enter the domain of philosophy, etc.? So these are some of the issues that this painting would, these two one installation and one painting, both of them are in Wiki Commons, so you could certainly reference it and quote it. Would do. I have referred to them in my book to talk about the patriarchal problem in philosophy. Now, the point is that we are surrounded by visual art. And so since we are surrounded by it, it impinges itself on us, it inspires us, because it makes us experience alternate worlds. And it takes us to the domain of imagination. So obviously, when all this is happening, we want to introduce all this in our very, very methodical, rational, so-called rigorous disciplines, which is what we do. We are surrounded by art. We can't help but reference it because art affects us. It affects us spontaneously. We don't really need to do anything to get affected by it. In fact, just now, I think when you saw those two paintings, you would have simply got affected by them without anybody having to do anything about it. So if being affected and being surrounded by a certain phenomenon is the basis for engaging with research, then of course this kind of research is very important, because we do it because it is available. It is all around. And the availability of art is linked to, may I quote here, a very interesting essay by Walter Benjamin called "The Work of Art in an Era of Mechanical Reproduction." Now, in this essay, Walter Benjamin points out that at the time when there is a reproduction of painting through print, and there is a constant reproduction happening in the print medium, because I don't need to go to gallery to see this. School of Athens, actually, I think I've seen it once even on the pavements of Dadar near the station. So I really don't need to go to Sistine Chapel to see it. It is reproduced. It is all over. And it is, in fact, a very sort of obvious painting to refer to. It is over-referenced in philosophy that, look, this is the example, as a form of an example. So here we have always been engaging with visual art as examples, illustrations. If I want to illustrate something, I turn to visual art and I say, this is an illustration of this philosophical position that there is an overemphasis on the thinker as a disembodied being, and there is hardly any emphasis on women here. It becomes a masculine enterprise. And this has been a pretty standard thing here with art. Visual art is used as an example. And similarly with film, and this is something that Zizek, etc., have been doing way since the 1990s. There is a focus on film as an example. It illustrates philosophical themes. And it is not at all problematic, because examples are very, very important for social science research. Social science research has to be rooted in examples. We need to give examples. So if we look upon these as illustrations, that is something they can do. We have a main thesis, we bring them in, we illustrate that main thesis with the help of some of these visual works. Why do we do that? Because we can't help it. They impinge themselves on us. We are carried away by them in a sensory way, and they compel us to think about them in some way. And this is because works of art have been reproduced mechanically as Walter Benjamin has pointed out, and they have lost their aura. They are no more auratic, A-U-R-A, aura. They are no more auratic. They are, in fact, demystified. They are totally demystified. They are totally available, for discussions. So the aura is gone, the mystification is gone, and they are available, as it were. And why are they available? They don't speak to us from the pedestal of a museum. They are available to us as ordinary prints inside the pages of books, in outside railway stations. They are also available to us digitally, which is what I've asked you to do. Please Google it and see it, and you'll see it in Wiki Commons. So that makes it even more easy. With the spread of digital technology, the availability of visual art is so immense that we have to take visual art into consideration if we are to, do some research. If we want to do some research and we have a genuine appreciation of painting, there is a great temptation to bring this in. So, in a way, art loses its sheen, it is there is a very interesting book by Herbert Dreyfus, In the Spirit of Heidegger, that one of the problems with modernity is that things have lost their sheen, and it is called All Things Shining. That things are not sacred anymore. They are not auratic anymore. They are all over the place, and they are there, but now the very fact that they are around us shows that they inspire us in some way. They have a capacity to inspire us. Why? Because we have access to them. When they were shining, when they had the aura, they were a part of the museum landscape. They are not a part of the museum landscape. They are all around. And because they are all around, we find that there is a availability that makes it simpler for us to engage with them. Now, this is particularly so with painting and film, because you have your internet, you have your mobile phone, you have your DVD. And when I'm teaching film, I don't really need to do anything other than if I have to illustrate something, I simply tell the students, go to your internet, open it up, Shivendra Singh Dungarpur's The Immortals is there on freely available for watching. You could just start opening the film and look at the first scene, So it has become pretty easy to reference them. So obviously it is in a way because there are various reasons for turning to art. The reasons are that I'm genuinely interested in art. Art inspires me, and I have a foot in art and I have a foot in academics. I want to integrate them, and I try to find ways and means of doing that. That's one. But there is also the sheer availability of art. It is all around through prints, to digital technology. And because of that, there is a wider reach that art has in an age of mechanical reproduction. And art loses its sheen, it loses its aura, and so it becomes more easy to take. It lends itself to analysis and interpretation in academic context. Now, and it's not such a bad thing, because new creative meanings emerge from all this. Now, a very interesting word is coined. I will be giving you this essay to take a look at, and this essay is called, just a second, Anita Sinha is the name of the author, and I have the essay from JSTOR for you, Flight of the Artdemics. I'll just write it down in the chat box. Can everyone see the chat box?
Ma'am, I'll post it on to the YouTube chat box. You could
Okay.
put it on the Zoom.
Okay, I'll do that, everyone. So Anita Sinha has coined a very interesting name, and hence I'm compelled to mention her also. I'm just putting it on the chat. Artdemics. One sec. Have we given rise to what Anita Sinha, in her essay Flight of the Artdemics, has mentioned as the gentrification of art? You know, that art has become gentrified because it is entered the high echelons of establishment, the high echelons of institutional life. So then are we converting art then in academics to a mere cultural commodity? Are we gentrifying it? And is it simply a vehicle for what I articulate? You know, does it not enter into my space as an academic in a non-instrumental way? And is it something that simply peppers up my research or glamorizes it, and so forth? You know, so those are valid questions to ask about this. Now, I'm going to try to see how to avoid all of this, you know, how to avoid with the artdemics phenomenon of glamorizing art, or simply sort of thinking of it as an additional kind of padding that I do to my research just to make it look interesting. But is there a way in which art can address me and compel me to explore a point of view in research, in academic research, that is textual and that is wordy? That is what I'm going to try to see. And here I will mention another thinker, and that is Donald, let me write it down. Just a second. Donald O'Donoghue. Donald O'Donoghue has a fantastic essay on using artwork for the sake of research. And it is something I'm going to ask you to read and think. The assignment I would give you is to think about this essay and to think about Anita Sinha and to think about your own research, whether you would want to integrate art in your research. And if you do so, are you guilty of gentrification? And Donald O'Donoghue's whole critique is that there is a certain way in which I'm trying to reduce art to academics, you know. So if art is given a research role, then am I trying to say that art is capable of doing something other than what it does? You know, because art does something. It gives us intuitions, inspirations, it gives us imagination, it does all of this. But am I compelling art to do something else? Am I really forcing it to become academic? And if I do that, am I not taking away the power of that art to speak to me, or to touch me, as it were, and affect me in ways that are quite different? Yeah. So this is something we really need to think about, because with the emergence of art and the usage of art, am I not objectifying art when I introduce art into my academic research? So to avoid this, we follow Donald O'Donoghue, right? Donald O'Donoghue would say that rather than think of academic and art mixing as a definite field, we should think of it as a transitional field, which is overlapping, which is conflictual, which is contradictory. And we locate ourselves in an in-between space, and we try not to homogenize or essentialize either. We cannot convert academics to art, nor can we convert art to academics. These are two different incompatible worlds, and the research that we do in one would proceed to the other, so that there is no reductionism. Now, here, of course, I am looking for how we could engage with works of art in ways, how would the encounter with a work of art lead to thinking in ways that are different or that are non-cliched, and how they could be rewarding. This is what I'm trying to come to. So we don't want to homogenize, we want to give art its due. We don't want to just push it into a large social science model. But then what do we need to do for that? So I come to the third part where we discuss, and maybe if you have questions, you could sort of, yeah, they would be posting it. So maybe I'll just go ahead with the last bit of what I'm setting out to do here today. Now, in using artworks and visual art in our research, we cannot follow a method, because we confront singular works of art, and singular works of art cannot be reduced to method. But then methodologically, there is no one mode of inquiry. So the question is, how do we engage with works of art? And is there one way of engaging? So obviously there is no one way of engaging, and we need to engage with works of art in diverse ways. We cannot really have a method that is clear-cut, or one singular method. And in fact, Donoghue uses a very interesting expression from Deleuze and Guattari's book, A Thousand Plateaus. It is called the logic of the and. The logic of the and. So when we use works of art, we are using the logic of the and. It is more thinking in conjunction, and thinking, keeping in mind all the tensions and all the differences in their spheres. Because art is not something that is capable of being reduced to a certain determinate object, or it doesn't say one thing. Depending upon who engages with a work of art, art would be saying different things to different people. So art really does not come from reason. It doesn't come from our discursive sense or intellect, but it is rather a sensibility. Art is a sensibility. And the sensibility is basically that there is more to the pair of shoes, or Van Gogh's pair of shoes, are more than what the shoes are. There is something more to the pair of shoes. They are not just a pair of shoes, right? If they are just a pair of shoes, then that's another story. It's very easy. But these are not just a pair of shoes. They are more than that. And so we could define art, and we could risk essentializing it, because art does not have to observe, and art does not have to record. Art doesn't have to represent. So given it doesn't have to predict, so it doesn't record, it doesn't observe, it doesn't represent. So clearly it is not there to establish a fact, or to give us, grant us, or guarantee us any meaning either, right? So it is basically, the artwork is something that we evoke and invoke as this or that, so it is basically it has a capacity. Art has a capacity for something like this, but it is not that it is necessary that that capacity is explored. There are many people who would not be exploring that, and that's a part of the package of that research methodology framework here. Now, we also find that works of art are invitations. They invite us to follow up ideas. They invite us to share them with the viewers. And art does not, as Rasier says, art does not translate itself on its own, anticipate its effects. I mentioned that earlier. It does not in advance of its becoming something, because it is a dead thing lying in a museum or somewhere. It is when someone looks at it that it becomes something live. It starts interacting, it starts speaking. So it is not really confined to one space. We actually find that it would set out to do different things for different people, and it would also be able to, in some sense, contribute to our larger obsessions in social sciences. So art is something that is pretty, it doesn't expect anything, it doesn't promise anything, and it can go in any direction whatsoever. And so we find that art is many a times, she gives this idea again and again in her work. I'm sorry, just a second. This is Elizabeth Gross. Elizabeth Gross, G-R-O-S-Z. Elizabeth Gross, let me write it down. The spelling. So we find that it is the spectator who is going to engage with the art, and it is the spectator whom art affects, in some sense. And so the spectator whom art affects creates the work of art as having a certain potential, meaning the work of art is already there in a created way. But when I start interpreting Van Gogh in a certain way for my social science research, I would actually be creating something there. So it is the creative dimension of the viewer also, the author, the viewer, the spectator, the receptacle, etc. And we find that artworks do not really transmit information. They are rather invitations. And they are invitations, and these invitations, we may be able to follow them if we comprehend them, and if we may not be able to follow them if we don't comprehend them. And we find that basically by bringing works of art into social science and empirical research, what one is trying to do is one is trying to achieve not something spectacular. That is not what one is trying to do, but one is rather trying to understand one's social world via the work of art. And so art requires all of this. Now art also is a capacity for open spaces. It is a capacity never to settle down with one interpretation. It also means that you can't confine it to one reading, etc. You have to keep reading it again and again and again. And art, we know, is a very complex area. It can be playful, it can be mischievous, it can be hostile, it can go against my belief system or that of my nation. So all this could happen with art. But in all of this, there is one word I need to put down here. In all of this, art has got an excess. It is something more than itself. It's excessive. There is an excess in it. I can't just describe it as a set of facts. There is something that is left over, something that is remaining, and that leftover or that remaining bit is art, surely. So if art is something that is left over and the remaining bit is art, then we clearly find that it has a certain capacity to speak to a moment, and it is not something that is permanently there. It's other works of art can come in at another time to do this. Now, given that art is all of this, it is not just something universal, but it has got the specific, and that is very important, and it opens up our freedom in such way. We need art for the sake of human freedom, very clearly. We don't need art otherwise. So everything else in art is quite irrelevant, but what is relevant is the freedom that we have. Now, this freedom is enhanced because of a couple of things in the art world itself. Art world itself requires a lot of research. No artist is going to be able to help us with research in a very concrete sense. A work of art is always research based. Now, what is the idea? You know, we often think of works of art as someone like Van Gogh just sat outside his mental asylum. He saw the sunflowers at all and he painted them, and lo and behold, we have the sunflowers. You know, no, it is not quite like that. There is a skill that is learned. There are textures that have to be learned. There are processes, etc. But it doesn't quite use methodology in the sense that academic social scientists use. But nevertheless, there is a research that even Van Gogh has done for his work. Now, very recently, I will send this across to you. Let me open it, and maybe this can be posted to everyone through the WhatsApp. I'll just send it to Professor Rashmi. I'll give you 2-3 examples of art that has got research. I'm forwarding to Professor Rashmi a Twitter message I received from our playwright, Mr. Ramu Ramanathan, about the kind of research he had to do when he wrote the play Cotton Polyester. Cotton 56, I've just forwarded it, so if it can be forwarded to all of you. Cotton, or you could maybe Google it also. It is a year, I think, since he's got out of Bombay due to the lockdown, Mumbai. And here his play, you know, so in fact, he says that on 18th March, I exited Mumbai. And when he was writing Cotton 56, Polyester 84, about Mumbai's working class people, he had to read a lot of books. And he has mentioned the sheer range of books from Lokwang Mai Griha, which is very close to your college, from Sugava Prakashan, etc., from Moj Publication, Parchure Publications, Abhinav Publications, OUP. I mean, the list is endless, you know, Seagull Publications. In fact, one little side assignment in addition to the main one of reading and writing about whether you would use a work of art in your social science research. If so, why? If not, why not? And what are some of the challenges you see in the light of these 2 essays by Donald O'Donoghue and Anita Sinner, sorry, that I'm going to send across to you. You could make a list of all the academic books that Ramu Ramanathan has read to write his play Cotton Polyester, and he always makes this point in every forum that work of art emerges through a lot of labor. It is not that it just falls from heaven, you know. And this is true of, so this is a literary work. Now, Donald O'Donoghue has mentioned a very interesting example too from architecture, and you will see this in his essay. The example is of Michael Arad. Let me mention this name here. Oh, please forgive me, my typos. Excessive. Michael Arad. Michael Arad is an architect who designed the memorial to September 9/11, in New York. And Donegal had attended his talk where he mentioned how the process of design is one of a great deal of research. The design process itself is based on research, and then it has to be connected with its larger ambience, etc. So in his case, he pointed out how he had a drawing made to display the attacks that came, how they were visualized. And once the drawing was visualized, he took that drawing and interacted with a lot of people from diverse sectors. And then he had to very carefully think about his material, and he had to construct the model, and he also named many of the people who died in the attack were named. And it's a project-based research. In painting, of course, a very classic example is the Gandhi series of Atul Dodia. A lot of research into Gandhi's diaries, Gandhi's books, and spelling it out, and which is also, similarly, Ramu Ramanathan has Mahadev Bhai, based on the whole set of diaries that Mahadev Desai wrote, who was Gandhi's secretary. So a great deal of research is done by artists, and you can't really just sit and paint. It's not that you're just, imagination doesn't operate in a vacuum. It is clearly rooted. It's rooted in the empirical. It is rooted in something determinate, but at the same time, it flies out of it. Now, clearly, given this, there is a possibility for art to generate knowledge if we take this into consideration, that even art research has got this dimension of research. Now, the second thing is that art is today, Donald Donegal points out that art has today got a lot of collaborative participatory possibilities, and in fact, a lot of artists are prepared to talk about their art, to discuss their art, and to dialogue about it. Shiba Chachi, for example, she has engaged with so many dialogues on her fascinating series of photographs on women aesthetics, and how does it open up the discussion of women of faith, etc. Those are questions that clearly come up here. Now, a work of art is very specific. It is very embodied. It is, I think, I need to show a PowerPoint, and it's only 10 minutes. Shall I try my best to wrap up? And can I get about 5 minutes of time extra? Can we
Yes,
go on
ma'am.
extra for 5 minutes? Okay.
I think yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so till 6:10 we will go on, and I will complete it. I'll complete my presentation by 6, and then we can have question answers for another 10 minutes, if that is okay with you. Yeah, thank you. So we find that art is something very specific. It is very embodied. The ideas are embodied. It elicits a lot of curiosity, surprise, uncertainty, and so forth, right? Now, given all this, we can follow philosophers such as Merleau-Ponty, who has engaged with the paintings of Cézanne, and Martin Heidegger, of course, who has engaged with Van Gogh. And they point out that there is a certain motivation that art gives us to perceive the world in a certain way. So the encounter, I use the word encounter from Donald O'Donoghue, the encounter between art and academic research, we can call it an encounter where academic research engages with art. And what kind of an encounter is it? It is not it is an encounter deliberately, something new, two new dimensions meeting each other. So artworks bring something new into the open. They throw into relief something that you can suddenly see, and there is an encounter taking place. And it is not something that is recorded. It is not like as though there is field work or anything like that, or there is some interpretation from a distance. And so to follow that earlier point, I think that I don't know if I put it on the chat box. One sec. The earlier point that the research is the research of and, it is the two areas are in conjunction following Deleuze and Guattari in 1,000 Plateaus. Yes, I've mentioned this. So it is a research based on and art and academics. We can't talk about art as academics. Sorry, it should be in capital. We can't talk of art as academics or academics as art. That's not what we can do. We can talk about art and academics side by side as an in-between space, an in-between space where you do not have one governing the other, but it requires the academic. In that encounter, you're not at a distance.
Ma'am, one second. Sorry. Yeah. Are you sharing your PPT? Because you said you're going to share your PPT.
I will be sharing my PPT in 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'm still describing the point, and now I'll come to it. Just give me 2 minutes and I'll share my PPT. The art encounter is one where you immerse yourself in the work of art. So it is not an act of distance, it is an act of immersion. And the act of immersion helps us open new subject and new subjects and new themes in social sciences. So now I'll share this PPT to point this out, to demonstrate this. 1 second. Yeah. Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, great. So we have here, ways of perception. So art research, bringing art into academic research, as I said, is not earlier quantitative or qualitative, but it enables us to perceive in new ways. So we open up a different mode of perception. That is what we are trying to do. Now, we find that Van Gogh's pair of shoes, now, this is from Wiki Commons, Van Gogh's pair of shoes, 1885 painting. This painting has been I'm going to circulate this PPT also. This painting has been the source of a great deal of verbosity, a lot of discussion. And I just want to point to how when you immerse yourself in a work of art, you don't perceive the work of art in the same way. So there are differences in perception. And so it would open up different topics for different researchers, so there is no one way of perceiving the pair of shoes. So now I come to the diversity in perception. You have Martin Heidegger, Martin Heidegger has discussed Van Gogh's pair of shoes in his Origin of the Work of Art. That is the name of the essay, and it is from 1935. Now, according to Martin Heidegger, Van Gogh's pair of shoes are the shoes of a very tired peasant woman. They represent the attempt that the peasant woman makes to connect with the world around her in the field. And there is a certain relationship between what human beings make, that is the shoe, and the texture of the shoe and the earth that is naturally there, so that art and nature somehow coalesce together, and there is a sense of belonging, there is a sense of home, or there is a heimat here, in these pair of shoes. Now note that he is writing about heimat in 1935, and it's a very dangerous time in Germany with the Nazis in power, right? And Heidegger had a brief flirtation with Nazis for about a couple of years when he was appointed as a rector by the Nazis. And he, of course, stepped down as the rector of Freiburg, but then that that part is also there. Now, later on, when so this is from Heidegger's point of view, the pair of shoes that Van Gogh discusses, these pair of shoes are not not discusses that Van Gogh has exhibited. The Van Gogh's pair of shoes that is displayed. I'm sorry. Look at the way I'm mixing up discussion with display in the work of art and social science theoretical research. Now, this pair of shoes, according to Heidegger, are not instrumental. That is what is so great about them. And so if they are not instrumental, clearly they cannot be put to any use. And it is fine to sort of deal with these shoes and think about them as having some kind of intrinsic value. And that intrinsic value is the value of your space on earth and a certain sense of belonging that you have to that earth, from Heidegger's point of view. Now, the problem with this interpretation, and this is given later on by, I think I'll have to just quickly come to it. Mayer Shapiro gives another interpretation, and that was the first critical interpretation of Heidegger, that a note on Heidegger and Van Gogh, the still life as a personal object. And you find that he points to how really these shoes, are they the shoes of a peasant woman? Now, he points out that this is a self-created construction. It is something that Heidegger has imagined, because actually the shoes are historical. They are not those of a peasant woman. They are the shoes of a man from the city, and that is Van Gogh. And Van Gogh no doubt represented peasant life, but then the peasant shoes are pretty much in a well depicted condition, and so he has painted his own shoes here, and these are not the dignified shoes of a peasant, but these are his own shoes, which are tattered and which are torn up and so forth. So the painting doesn't really provide the peasant woman's shoes, a picture of the peasant woman's shoes, or kind of a life of the peasant woman, but it actually provides a glimpse into a traveling city man, similar to the kind of shoes that Van Gogh himself wore in 1885. And Shapiro points out that Heidegger neglects this completely, and there is a sort of a certain imposition of his own point of view on the painting. And Shapiro points out that when you start looking at painting, you have to take still life into consideration, but then still life has to be looked at within the larger world, and the larger world here is the world of the city, considering that these are tattered shoes. Now, a third dimension comes in. So that is Shapiro and his interpretation, and which is taking the other extreme. One is rural, one is urban. And then Derrida comes in to say that these are actually hallucinations. He says it in Truth About Painting, the restitution, pointing that these shoes are actually let me quote here Derrida: these shoes are hallucinogens. These shoes are hallucinogens, So according to Derrida, these shoes are hallucinogens. What does he mean? That he is basically pointing to how both Heidegger as well as Shapiro had actually not given visual arguments for their point of view. Derrida notes that these shoes are not even a pair. They are rather asymmetrical, and they're just put there side by side. And if you just stick to the painting and you stare at it very carefully and you look at it for a long time, what you would perceive is neither a city dweller nor a wandering city dweller, not a located rural farmer, but you would rather see a certain lack of fitness. It's a pair is not even a pair. And when we start thinking of the pair not even being a pair, Derrida points out that there is nothing that is conveyed in the pair of shoes that has got a determinate meaning, certainly not the being at home or familiarity, Heimlich, Heimat. None of this stuff is there in the shoes, nor is it about being in a journey. So what do you find in the pair of shoes? Well, you would have to look very deeply, and it would be the meaning emerges. It is not about being at home. It is about not being at home, because the pair is rather asymmetrical. So if not being at home is what the pair of shoes is all about, then why can't these be the shoes of a migrant? This is the question that is posed by Heidegger. These could very well be a migrant shoes. Why should they be the grounded shoes of a farmer? So you can see the diversity of perception. Now, let me finally come to one essay, one last point, and I'll end here. Now, the pair of shoes has been fetishized a lot, in discussions in literature and philosophy and social science research, a great deal of fetish. And you could look at this essay. I'll just put it on the chat box. And I'm sending you this whole thing by mail also. You'll get it tonight. Just a second. I'll just stop screen sharing for a minute just to share this essay. This is a great essay that is available online on the pair of shoes. And I would urge you to take a look. And of course, at the original articles also by all the... Yeah, the last 2 minutes. Andy Warhol takes a look at the pair of shoes, and he critiques this whole perspective for being over-laden and over-serious discussion. And he points out that, sorry, not Andy Warhol, I'm sorry. This is Frederick Jameson. Frederick Jameson, in his book, Postmodernism or the Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism, points out that the shoes have always been a big kind of obsession in philosophy and literature. But then by the time you come from the shoes that Van Gogh has painted to the shoes that Andy Warhol painted in 1980 called Diamond Dust shoes, what do you find? Diamond Dust shoes, this is a quotation from Frederick Jameson. Andy Warhol's Diamond Dust shoes evidently no longer speaks to us with any of the immediacy of Van Gogh's footgear. Indeed, I'm tempted to say that it does not really speak to us at all, because these are just piled up shoes in some shopping mall, just reproduction, not even painted, just a sort of an image that is photographed, a print that is put out there. And the whole point here is that the shoes don't inspire us at all, and we are only surrounded by commodities. So can art really even inspire us? That is, I think, what the Diamond Dust shoes are trying to say. So ultimately, this would depend on perception. This is again from Wiki Commons. This is the only image I could get from Wiki Commons, because I was trying to get a good, clear image, but those are not in the Commons site that can be circulated and used, so I could not. But you could go ahead and Google it and see the original color scheme is a little different. Even when you see the original artwork in Nice, I think you will find that the colors are very, very rich. That is completely missing in the Wiki Commons. So I'm sorry about that poor reproduction, but you'll still get it in the online on the internet. Yeah. So at times there could be an inspiration, but maybe there won't be an inspiration. So it is a chance encounter, and all sorts of things can happen. There are no guarantees, and it is a rather unpredictable thing. So thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for that intense session. It was truly expansive and very, very intense, I must say. So thank you for sharing the wealth of your experience. We have a bunch of comments and a couple of questions. Just a second.
Would you be able to also share these with me by email later on? Or
The
maybe I can
questions.
take pictures, the questions. Will you be posting them for me?
Yes, ma'am. It is posted here, one of which I already posted.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah.
Where is it? Did you post them?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I got it. Art is more subjective than objective. How can I use it in the research to exhibit my findings? Yes, that is a very that is the whole point of what I was trying to say today. That it is very, very difficult. So if that work of art speaks to you in a very direct way, you could certainly use it if you are able to see something because of the work of art, and it is able, you are able to perceive rather than, I made this distinction, to simply rationalize or to think and to reinforce your research and to perceive something. Okay. So for example, let us say I look at Van Gogh's pair of shoes and I read Derrida's book, The Truth of about Painting, where in a chapter he discusses Heidegger's shoes, and he brings up this dramatic point, these could be the shoes of a migrant. And I would end up, doing a lot of research on migration, etc., because of that. And this would be the inspiration that Derrida helped me see that these shoes are asymmetrical, and that really moved me a lot. And I ended up doing a great deal of work on migration and so forth. But now, that is in one case. What about the shoes that are simply stacked up and kept? Symmetrical shoes, very glamorous shoes, very colorful shoes that are just stacked up and kept, like Andy Warhol. Can it be a kind of a critique of these shoes that are so intense, that make me feel so much? Because at a time when there is an all-pervasiveness of commodity and glamorous products, even on the internet and so forth, am I able to even see the pain of migration or the pain of wearing asymmetrical shoes? So Andy Warhol's painting could help me question my research on migration by posing an alternate perspective of everything being homogenized, everything being essentialized, everything being uniform. Then how would I be able to then keep my thesis and my argument going about how my work on migration is about migrants being confined to wearing asymmetrical shoes, because even migrants would be staying in homogeneous houses, wearing symmetrical shoes, and the pathos of asymmetry is not there. Rather, it is more a pathos of symmetry. So one would have to rethink a lot and change things. You could also use it in an illustrative way. So this is in a substantive way. I'm today trying to argue, because I do the illustrative research very often. That is what I often do. However, I am trying to explore today, thanks to Professor Rashmi George, the possibility of doing substantive research, where my research itself is shaped by that artwork. So because I perceive the artwork in a certain way, I end up doing research of a certain sort. So how does that artwork influence the thesis that I articulate, the hypothesis that I articulate, the research problem that I articulate in social science research? This is what I'm trying to see. So one way is when I perceive something in the work of art, I bring it to my research, and in which case the counter perspectives would also have to be brought in. And the other question, thank you for that, is thank you for your question. I don't know whose question, the first one on subjective.
It's Vidya Haran.
Yeah, Vidya. Okay, the second question also is Vidya Aryanan. Thank you, Vidya. The photography, yes, of course. Visual cultural studies, absolutely. The same kind of problematic comes up with photography that I've talked about with visual art. And in the case of photography, there are two dimensions to it, because there is one school which keeps sort of denying that photography is art and that it is too realistic, which is of course not a predominant school anymore. This was a very predominant school in the 80s. So photography is today easily accepted as a work of art, but you still have the big challenge that there is an image coming in the middle of a text. And what are you going to do with the image that enters your text? And how are you going to engage with that image that is just there in the middle of a text? So one possible conclusion that this opens up about research methodology is that we don't need to have a seamless textual writing. We can intersperse the text with images, provided those images illustrate the text in some way or they inspire the text in some way. Okay, so and then this is also about human beings inhabiting a diversity of domains. We are not just in the orbit of academic social science methodologies. We are also in the orbit of images that are make us feel, make us think, inspire us, make us imagine in some way. So all of that, shouldn't that also get reflected in the research that we do? And it need not be gentrification if it is something that genuinely affects me, something that I genuinely feel, and I bring it. It would not be sitting like an artificial cosmetic ornament in the research, but it would be very much a part of the constitution of my research problem. And in any case, even an ornament has its place. You know, we know this from our classical works of art, that even ornaments have their place. So why not even ornamentalize research? What's wrong with ornamentalizing academic research? But yes, gentrifying in the sense of using it just as a piece for the sake of status or for the sake of prestige, and inflicting academic values on it, and not being prepared to submit yourself to it, and not being prepared to learn from it, that is surely a problem. You know, so Anita Sinha clearly points out a valid issue, but then the point is that that issue, in order to overcome that, what I'm trying to suggest, following O'Donoghue, is that let us think of that artwork and our social science work or literature work or philosophical work as an encounter. And in an encounter, we find that there is something very unfamiliar and unpredictable that could happen, and where I would be willing to learn from the other, where I don't approach it, I don't have set categories, something new happened. Yeah, Toulouse-Lautrec has shown, worked with advertising and great works of art used in media. Yes, of course, media, of course, puts it to the commercial art and so-called fine art have had a massive give and take. And there are certain, and this is true even in India, say M.F. Hussain. So we find that there is a constant give and take between these worlds, and we can't really territorialize them in that manner. And here I would say that let us think of art not as some reified sort of zone of contemplation or some, let us not think of it as erratic. Yes, let's not think of it as erratic. So I would argue against Dreyfus, and I would say with Walter Benjamin that let us demystify it. And I think that is what it does. You know, it demystifies it. And I think that is where this practice would be categorized, of taking diversity and bringing in a little bit of creativity and bringing in a little bit of punch into my research of spontaneity and perceptiveness and the experiential dimension. Because in order to bring in art is a very, very experiential thing. So by introducing a work of art, I also introduce my experiences into the research. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. The YouTube comments, I mean, there are a lot of appreciative comments and on the YouTube link. The YouTube will be available post the session.
Okay.
So I invite you to kind of go through them at your leisure.
Okay,
So I invite Dr. Rashmi George to officially thank you for the session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Subramaniam. Thank you so much to your whole team, because this is such a complex task, this online, and you have been working so hard at it. I thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, Rashmi.
It's my duty to thank Dr. Kanchana Mahadevan for this wonderful talk. And I would like to use an analogy from music. This has been a grand finale. This is the last talk of the 6-day FDP that we had. And we actually began with the overture of digital humanity. So I'd like to imagine that this has been a grand finale. Thank you so much for this intensity that you brought to the discussion on visuals within the scope of research, and also to show that how seamlessly this can be brought into academics, because sometimes there's a tendency to make it appear frivolous when we start using visuals, and we largely use these kind of visuals in humanities and social sciences. So there is a tendency for people to think that, oh, we are only doing cinema and we are only looking at paintings, but there is such a lot of theorization that goes along with this kind of study, and it's so integral to our understanding. You've always done it, so we are very grateful that you could share your information, your knowledge with all of us, and I'm sure our participants are flooding YouTube with lots of appreciative comments, as Professor Perry just mentioned. So thank you so much for juxtaposing philosophy with visuals and also extending it beyond to other disciplines. Thanks a lot for your time, and I know that it was not an easy task at all for you to shift from philosophy to including all the other disciplines. So thanks a million for that. And I'd also at this point like to thank the college management, Father Rector Keith D'Souza, our principal, Dr. Rajendra Shinde, and also the convener of this program, this entire research methodology program, Dr. Karuna Gokarn, who has been working very hard to put this together, coordinated with so many different people. So thank you all, and most importantly, our participants who have very actively participated throughout this program. So I'm sure all of us have had a very enriching session. Thank you so much, everyone, Vivian and Ami, for instance, and all the faculty, my colleagues who have been part of this program. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, ma'am. So we officially close the meeting now.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time and your energy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, all the best.
So for the participants, the link has been posted multiple times, and all the resource material also will be available in the Google class by evening today. Yes. So thank you. Have a great evening.